All right, here we go. We are live. It looks like we're feeding through to the folks out there. You guys can let me know how the audio is, how everything sounds out there. If we're coming, let me see. Maybe I need turn up some light on me. There you go. Add a little bit more light. If you're watching us on Utreon, you already know this. We go live on Utreon. Let me see. I gotta block my face so that we could hold guns like this, because YouTube won't let us do it. So if you want to join us live, you go over to Utreon/Who Moved My Freedom podcast. That way you can get to see us fondle the guns. There you go, like this one. I did a short about this one if you guys want to know more. We'll get into it here as we get into the show. I hope you got some guns. All right, let's see here. We've got Rolando the Puerto Rican Pistolero joining us here. I think everything's good. I don't see or hear any complaints from anyone. I
Awesome.
will push the button and we'll get going here. Let's kick it off.
Welcome back to the Hank Strange Situation, Lifestyles of the Locked and Loaded.
We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of great companies like Franklin Armory. Franklin Armory provides 100% US-made firearms and awesome binary option triggers. Their focus and purpose is to provide freedom tools to all Americans, especially those in not-so-free states. So when you're in the market, please consider Franklin Armory. Okay, bada bing, bada boom, here we go. We are live. Let's get the jazz hands going. Rolando the Puerto Rican Pistolero is joining us right now. We are live. I hope you guys have your big girl panties on. This is episode 928 of the Who Moved My Freedom podcast. And the title is, What's Up with the FBI? I know that's Rolando and I were talking about this. That's what everyone's talking about. With Rolando
Yep.
the Puerto Rican Pistolero joining me. Ro, what's up, man? What's going on?
Not too much. Been busy. Been doing more streams than ever the last couple of months, but it's been really awesome. I had a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, man. Big things happening for you guys. I think the last time I saw you, I think I was
Yep.
on your show. Yeah.
Yep. It was our 100th episode.
How did it go?
Oh man, it was excellent. It was one of our most viewed episodes, and it brought a lot of new people on. And I was grateful for you and everyone else that was able to jump on and make it there.
It was cool. How many people? I know when I was on. Let me see. I'm trying to remember who was on. I know Kevin Dixie,
hmm
uh, and then Argo J.
Argo. Yep.
Right.
Tony Simon.
Tony
And then
Simon.
Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers hopped in there for a bit.
Right. Exactly.
hmm
Yeah. You're rolling with the big boys, man. What's How did that happen?
Well, so
I'm
that's been
Geeks and Gamers. That's cool. That's a
yeah.
cool deal.
So
Yeah.
that's been kind of crazy. So for people that don't know, Geeks and Gamers is a pretty big video game.
Hmm.
Well, it's a group of channels at this point on YouTube. It was started by Jeremy Griggs. He's D-Day Cobra over on YouTube, and he runs the main Geeks and Gamers channel and his own channel. And he pretty much started it out as talking about video game news. And around the time that Trump was getting elected in 2016, and Star Wars Episode 8 came out, the Last Jedi,
Hmm.
it really just it kind of all coincided, and that was like a pivotal moment in the pretty much in not in just politics but the culture war,
Hmm.
because it was clear kind of Disney had an agenda that they were trying to push, feminism and, the typical diversity and woke crap into Star Wars.
Right.
And Jeremy was one of the big guys on YouTube that called it out. Eric July,
Hmm.
Gary over at Nerdrotic were also some of the big ones. And they kind
Hmm.
of, that's kind of how they became big on YouTube. And he
Yeah.
started, that Geeks and Gamers channel.
Yeah. Young
And it
Ripper.
grew from there.
That's Eric July, right? Young
Yep,
Ripper.
yep. Young Rippa 5'9". So, and
Yeah.
Young Rippa's been doing a ton of awesome stuff lately.
Yeah. He's got his comic books out there that he's
Yep,
making cajillions
yep,
of dollars coming in. It's good stuff.
yep.
Hmm.
So, we kind of knew Eric before through Caro Brown. She was one of the people that used to be in our chat early on during our podcast. She wasn't a big gun person, but
Hmm.
she was into freedom, and She just kind of started watching our show. I
Mhm.
think we mentioned Eric once, and she's like, "Hey, I work with Eric. Would you like to be
Ah,
on his show?"
nice.
And
You never
so,
know who's watching.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's how it is. It's really
Mhm.
crazy how things work.
Mhm.
So she kind of linked us up with Eric. We were able to get on his show, and it's kind of crazy how, especially today that you have me on, that we're talking about all this. It's kind of like all these events had a little bit to do with all this stuff, and how we got here. Really, to be honest with you,
Mhm.
from Trump getting elected and the gun control that's been going on. It's like all these different things within the political and cultural space
Mhm.
have kind of coalesced, and we've bounced kind of inside of it. So we were on Eric's show, but it was 3 days before January 6th. So after that, the conversation completely changed in the country, and so our show never aired. But he had interactions with Maj. He was at Maj's Solutionary Summit, and
Mhm.
obviously we know Maj and we're close with Devin, so they
Mhm.
invited us to do our show there, and we kind of got to turn the tables on Eric and interview him live
Mhm.
there for about an hour. So it was cool. He remembered us, and we had a great conversation. And from that point, I had already been watching Eric for a couple of years, and I saw some of the other channels that he was interacting with, and he was on Gary and Jeremy's show that they have every Friday, Friday Night Tights, which at this point has become pretty huge. They have like 12 to 14,000 people watching live every Friday now. And they've done, a couple hundred episodes, I think, at this point.
Mhm.
So I saw Eric go on their show. I was like, well, these guys are pretty cool. They're cut from the same cloth. I feel the same way about what's going on in the entertainment industry.
Mhm.
Obviously, I care about what's going on in the freedom movement. And I always saw Eric. Eric is a big time libertarian and pro freedom. Well, he's probably just at this point, he's just more his own thing because the Libertarian Party is kind of a joke, and he's not afraid to call them out.
Mhm.
But he's always been a lot more political, whether it's in his music or his YouTube channel.
Mhm.
So he already resonated with me. I started watching Jeremy a lot more. They actually every Sunday they play Mario Kart. They've been doing that for more than a year. Kind of got to see everybody, and I liked what Jeremy was doing. And he was actually one of the first YouTube channels that I really, I wanted to support every month, just because I really enjoyed what they were doing. And it was something that we were passionate about. You can see our background here. Everybody that knows us, that's been following us over the last few years,
Right.
knows that. Yeah,
Right
knows
up
that
your alley.
yeah, knows that video games, pop culture, all that stuff, those are things that we're passionate about.
Mhm.
The gun advocacy, freedom advocacy, that's kind of something that we fell into.
Mhm.
And we always wanted to incorporate our passion because the cultural war dictates what's going on in politics and vice versa.
Mhm.
So it's very important to know what's going on there because young people gravitate towards those things. And for better or for worse, they listen to people in the cultural space.
Mhm.
It drives us crazy that a bunch of idiotic celebrities have so much influence, but that's kind of the world that we live in today.
Yeah, I think overall culture is more important than any one segment of something. So
Yeah.
even for us as gun guys, for what we're doing to really grow, we can't be in one stagnant pool, right?
Hmm.
This is one of the things that a lot of folks say when people talk about separating from YouTube and all social media. Because if
Yeah.
we really separate ourselves, then we're just in one pool, and there is no room for growth. It's kind of
Yep.
like if you look at Truth Social, for example, if all of us who thought this way really went over there, we would never have an opportunity to grow and reach a new audience because in general people are into all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you should be, if you're capable of doing it, you should be on every platform that you can pretty much handle. So if you have the time to be able to upload your stuff, or, in some cases, you can pay for a service that does that. If you can kind of take on that burden, then I think it's worth your time to be everywhere until they force you out. Because as
Yeah.
long as you're on their platforms, yes, they can kind of control and dictate some of the things that you say if you want to stay on that platform
Mhm.
and kind of grow. But at the same time, even if you have to, limit a little bit of your speech, you can always use those platforms to point somebody else to say, hey, if you really want the real story and you want to see even more stuff that I can't show on YouTube, check me out on Utreon, check me out on Rumble,
Mhm.
any of those other alternative platforms. Or same thing on Twitter, you can even tweet out like, hey, just check me out on Truth Social if you want me to, say the stuff that I can't say, that Twitter doesn't want you to hear. And that has its own appeal in its own way, because then people on those other platforms can be intrigued, and then you can funnel them in and ultimately be successful on multiple platforms and kind of use their own system against them as best as you can.
Yeah, I think, look, I hate it that YouTube does what it does, and all these, Twitter, for example, any of these social media. I don't like Truth, to be honest with you, right?
I haven't used it yet, so
they block me all the time, man. So I'll post that we're doing this podcast, and they'll actually, how on Instagram, if you put up a picture, I guess if you go hunting and you take a deer or something, put up a picture, they put that graphic violence kind of thing. Yeah, they've put that over me sharing this podcast. So so I don't like any of these things. I'm not happy with any of that happening, and it shouldn't happen that way. But us just going like, oh, this is not fair, has nothing to do with it. These are pimping rules, right? Yeah. You don't hate the player, you hate the game, but you still play.
Yeah, I mean that's how it is.
Yeah, I mean, until you can be in it.
Until and unless you can realistically build your own platform, and both sides throw that at each other all the time, like you didn't build that, or just go build your own thing, which obviously can be prohibitive in a lot of ways. But at the end of the day, Truth Social, if they want to be on the App Store, they're still going to follow certain rules that are dictated by Google and Apple. So if you don't like that, then you can go use Gab or Mastodon or some other thing that's completely unregulated, but at the same time they'll always say, oh, well, look, they're big on Gab or Mastodon. That's where the crazy people hang out. Even if it's not true, it doesn't matter, because they've successfully stigmatized those things. Yeah. So, I mean, they're always going to try to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
There's a whole bunch of things going on with that, right? First of all, Truth Social has its own rules for its own reasons. Like, I believe one of them is that you can't talk bad about Trump or whatever, right? Yeah. There's all these. Everyone has their thing. It's their sandbox. Yeah. They could play however they want to, and if you're in there with them, you've got to play by those rules. So, ultimately, what I believe is that if you don't play in the game, then you kind of like go away. So if you have the ability, if you don't need to do it, then hey, you don't need to do it, right? Or if you don't want to do it. But if you're in a position that we're in, a lot of these other guys out there that we're talking about, you have to play the game until you can create something, something independent from that, or something else comes along. It's really, 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 really super expensive. This is what the whole Twitter thing with Elon Musk is all about, right? I saw him talking. They did like the Tesla annual shareholders meeting, and they let the shareholders vote on asking him questions. One of them was about Twitter, and the thing that he said is that he has ideas for a social media platform, and it's going to be expensive and take also a lot of time to build that. And the reason why he was interested in Twitter is because it could save him like 3 years on the plan that he has. So he could do it without Twitter, but buying Twitter can save him a few years. So buying Twitter like they're trying to sue him and force him into doing, what are we talking about here? 40, 50 billion? Yeah. I mean, it's serious money, man.
It is.
So
and it wasn't all his. So I mean, who's going to be on the hook for that? Because some investors obviously. Now he could theoretically, if he liquidated his assets, he'd be worth 100 and something billion, almost 200 billion. So he could, in theory, cash that out. But he wouldn't do that, because that would be stupid to cash out his assets in order to fund that entirely himself. Yeah. Especially if he's correct in saying that. Almost the majority of Twitter is bots, and it's all bullshit. Right. So, why would he want something that's built completely on fraud and bullshit? Nobody would want that. So I always thought that he's trying to get Twitter into a position where they have to go to court, and they have to go into discovery, and they're going to have to be, basically reveal that their algorithms are skewed in a certain direction, and that they have a lot of fake bot accounts running rampant throughout the platform, and either Twitter endorses it or they can do nothing about it, and they have no control over their own platform.
Yeah.
So either way, that allows Elon to basically either cut himself out of the deal or go to the government and go to the shareholders and be like, your company is entirely bullshit. So I shouldn't have to pay $40 billion for it. You're going to have to cut this to like $20 billion or even more if you
I
want me to
agree.
buy that. And I'll do you the favor of buying it from you at that point.
Yeah,
I'm going to
dude,
be doing you a favor.
Yeah, they're gonna go the way of MySpace or something like
Yeah.
that. Either way, so yeah, I listen. The potential wealth of Elon Musk is actually scary. I don't think anyone really realize the assets that he's sitting on with Tesla, SpaceX, etc. I mean,
Yep.
you know, the so for example, Teslas, they're driving all around the country and pretty soon the planet, mapping everything, man. Do you know what that data is? It's if you could go back in time to when Google started doing what it's, what it's doing. Like how far do we have to go back to Google? It's more than 20 years. It's like probably closer to 30 years. I don't think anyone understood. Like Google knows everything, right? They're the number one search engine. They know everything about everyone. So then imagine the value of cars that are driving around, mapping. It knows what traffic is, how people are driving, all kinds of data is going on there. That's incredibly valuable. Even if Teslas, even if people stopped buying those cars, that technology that they're developing on its own, which people aren't going to stop buying them. That's amazing. Then you have SpaceX, where I mean, this stuff of like rockets taking off and then landing, that is literally out of the original sci-fi movies.
Yep.
Not even the ones you and I grew up on.
Yep.
So
I mean, honestly, it's all stuff that people thought we were going to have like 40 years ago already, but we just kind of stopped after the Cold War.
Yeah, can't
After
do
we
it.
landed on the moon, we were just kind of like, well, we did it, so let's we don't have to do this anymore. We proved that we're the best.
Yeah, the
So we
government
just kind of,
can't do
cut
it.
it off.
Yeah, government can't do it. It takes true creativity. The space program, basically, we grabbed up those dudes from the Nazi dudes, right?
Yep.
And that's how we ran the space program. Well, to go to the next level takes true creativity that cannot really happen inside of any government. Right, any government system. So there's a lot of things. When you're looking at Starlink, I know people complain about it. I have it. I complain about it. Right. But if you think of the potential of Starlink, of where they could go with what they're doing, he could put out a phone.
Yep.
There's all kinds of craziness that can happen.
Look what he's already doing. He's basically helping influence the war in Ukraine because he gave them Starlink coverage, and there's nothing that the Russians can do about it. So they have uninterruptible communications and internet service now that allows them to control drones, that allows them to get intelligence, that allows them to communicate with their soldiers. Like that's already a company right there that he basically was like, okay, I'm going to tip the scales here. And that shows how I mean, obviously the defense companies are extremely powerful. If you think about it, there are companies that are building weapons. If they wanted to use them, they could do something. But controlling information is even more powerful, and that's what Elon Musk is doing here. He's basically like, it doesn't matter what you do to this country, you can't stop the signal. Literally, you can't stop the signal. That's what he's doing there.
Yeah, it's crazy. The potential,
and it's great. It's great and terrifying at the same time because one day, companies last beyond their founders a lot of times. Some companies flame out quickly, others last forever or seemingly forever. So Elon might be cool and he might be altruistic and may use this stuff for good. I don't know. His motives are confound me sometimes. I don't know what his deal is. But let's say that he were using it for good. Once he's gone, either because he dies or he's like, I'm retiring, I'm done. Whoever takes over the company next may not be the same way, and they're still going to have access to all this stuff.
I don't think
you see movies like that all the time.
Yeah.
Like iRobot is basically like that. iRobot's basically all about that.
Yeah, he could be Dr. Evil easily. But I don't think he's perfect either. I think he's got a lot of issues. He definitely likes sleeping around and banging other people's chicks and making babies, which is nothing. There's nothing wrong with the making babies part. I can't complain about that. But he's pretty much notorious for getting at the ladies.
Yep.
and not in a super honorable way.
No.
I mean, so who
I mean,
knows,
it
man?
seems like there's a lot of dudes that seem to have that in common nowadays. So
Um,
at that
what's
level,
what's the first motivation of human beings? I mean,
yeah,
we're
it's
driven by
yep,
sex.
yep,
It's just that's just a reality. So what happens when we get a lot of money and a lot of power? It doesn't matter anymore. Like Elon Musk is not good looking.
yeah, that doesn't matter.
No, he's not even suave. He's not even
Yep,
magnetic. you know, he's none of that stuff. But yeah, listen, it's crazy what a few 100,000 will do, much less a few million or a few, billion.
billion.
So
Hmm.
yeah, it's totally insane stuff. So
Yep, yeah, it completely changes everything.
yeah, let's see, really quick here before we go. I'll get some comments in from people. DCG44 says, speaking of data, I read Amazon bought Roomba vacuums. They're saying they will soon have a map of your home. Uh, Yeah, and Night Train says, enjoyed the show Sunday, Rolando, with your lovely wife,
Awesome, thank you.
Gloria Estefan. There you go. And DCG44 says, zip it, Hank. Yes, that's the Zip 22. That's what that is. We'll get
Awesome.
into it. We'll get into it here. I did do a short of that. That's up actually on the Who Moved My Freedom stuff. You guys will see that. I'm putting shorts up for anyone. We'll take a break. We'll come right back. Walther Arms has been making concealed carry handguns for over 90 years, starting with the PPK. Today, Walther is based in the good old US of A and still builds quality firearms like the PPQ and PDP for personal defense and competition. So when you're in the market, please consider Walther Arms. We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of great companies like Walther Arms. So here's a quote from Night Train. He didn't do it exactly. He's being nice about it. He says, Night Train, first you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the women. Tony Montana. I think he said, first you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the bitches. you know, truth. That's the motivation. That's the motivation
So
for dudes.
it is in a lot of cases. So I never finished the story. So
Oh yes, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. So we started supporting Geeks and Gamers, and when you become, every channel does something. If you support them, either you get access to exclusive content and things like that. So one of theirs, in gaming channels, Discord is huge. Discord is kind of like a forum and voice chat or video chat service and software. It's on on PC and cell phone and now on Xbox too. So a lot of gaming channels use that. It's actually a really good voice chat platform. So you get access to their Discord, and every Mondays and Thursdays they do they play video games with the premium members. So I started playing with them for a while. One of the newer guys there, his name is Johnny64. He actually runs in his day job, I guess, as a YouTuber. He has a pretty big basketball channel. He's got like 125,000 subs. So he actually does well enough there to that he does that full time. So he was running a lot of those premium streams, and he and I started talking, and I kind of mentioned that I was into guns and that my wife and I had a YouTube channel, and he and I hit it off because he's big on guns. He owns an AUG. He's got a SCAR, so he loves all that stuff.
Oh, cool.
So, and he had like dreams of one day, like just maybe doing it on the side, filming some content with his guns. And he lives out in out west. So
no, he's doing the right thing. Basketball, anything except guns is good.
Yeah. No, his basketball content is great. Legitimately, it's awesome. So he and I hit it off. He and I, pretty much, he's one of my best friends at this point. We talk and hang out and play video games all the time outside of that. So after a while, Jeremy would sometimes jump into the premium streams, and we started playing a lot of Fortnite recently because they added a mode without the building. So that pretty much made it more of a normal shooter, and it was a lot guys like us that don't build and do all that crazy shit were able to dominate. So they started playing it again. They brought it into the premium streams, and I would play, and I'm pretty good at it. So Jeremy would watch us, and he actually kind of liked what he liked how I carried myself. And he started speaking with Johnny kind of in the background. He's like, what do you think of Rolando and his wife? Because Joe would always jump in there with me too, and we'd play together. He's like, what do you think of Rolo and his wife? Do you think they'd be a good fit for us? So I didn't know that this was going on in the background. And Johnny said, yeah, Rolo and Joe are awesome. They actually have their own YouTube channel. They've got their own show. They're really solid. You know, I think they'd be great. And they actually know, they know Eric, Young Ripa. So, you know, he actually went to Eric and he said, hey, Locked and Loaded Latinos, what do you think of these guys? And Eric was like, they're awesome, really solid people. They'd be a great asset to you. I was like, I couldn't believe it. Jeremy told me all this, you know, after the fact. So I was really grateful with that. It was, you know, it's kind of it's a big deal in that kind of space, especially, you know, we got kind of a gun YouTube channel. We talk a lot about politics. So to get that kind of praise, even outside of our space was, you know, it meant a lot to us. So at that point, they had a meetup in May in Universal. There was a big, you know, con going on, Comic-Con in Orlando. So Joe and I went there. We got, you know, the 4-day pass. We went to the parks and hung out. And on the Saturday, we were able to, they went to the con. We hung out with them in person, went to Universal afterwards at City Walk, hung out. And then Jeremy pulled us aside and he was like, hey, you know, would you guys like to be part of Geeks and Gamers? And that's, you know, that's pretty much all she wrote. And I said, absolutely. And it always kind of fit with what I wanted, you know, Locked and Loaded Latinos to be and become, which is bridge the gap between the Second Amendment community and the more mainstream cultural community. Because honestly, the gun community has a culture issue. You know, the culture has been, you know, it's been created to hate guns. Well, simultaneously, well, it's contradictory really, because the media, the powers that be, hate guns. They want to take our guns away. But all of the media that the people love, whether it's movies, TV shows, or video games, are extremely gun centric. So we are.
Well, I mean, you know, not to cut you off there, but you know, I think that it's not just that it's gun centric; it's that human beings are violent centric.
Yeah, we are.
That's what we are.
Yeah. So I mean, you can't deny that, and clearly we like it, and these are also you know, positive outlets for that stuff. So in the past, you had gladiators fighting, or we'd go fight in random wars just for the hell of it, just to kill each other and to fight and to take things. Obviously, we can't do that nowadays, or we shouldn't. We've moved past that, but we need some sort of outlet. So you know, sports, combat sports, football, rugby. Hockey, all those things, even any competition doesn't have to be physical, even baseball, that stuff, anything that has to do with people competing one another and having a winner. We love that stuff. That's what we want. That's what we strive for. So, you know, in video games and movies, we can use tools that, you know, you really can't use, you know, in a civilized way against other people, but you can either observe them in like movies and see different scenarios. And, you know, guns are kind of glorified in movies, and I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing, even though they're portrayed either inaccurately or really irresponsibly. But I think that just makes us in the Second Amendment community, you know, it makes it more important what we do to emphasize.
What they do with guns is deliberate. What they do with guns
of course.
in movies is very
but at the same time, it promotes guns and it makes them look cool. Because every hero, John Wick, everybody loves John Wick. Every action movie, the hero's always got a gun. You know,
you can't get away from it with my sons. When my sons were kids, right? I deliberately didn't buy them guns and stuff like that. I didn't do it. I would just, you know, Lola and I would take them to the toy store and go, okay, walk around the toy store and look at stuff and see what you like, and they would gravitate to that. It's ingrained. It's in our nature. It's inescapable. You know, it doesn't make us bad. It's who we are, and we need to figure out how to embrace that and work with it. Although, yes, some people are broken. Some people do want to take whatever their problems out on the other people in their village. And what we would have done a long time ago is taken those freaking people out into the forest or something and done them in and buried their asses out there, you know, and keep moving. Just, you know, in modern day society, we don't do things like that anymore. And in lots of ways, it's to our detriment.
Yeah, no, because we need to realize that even though we've come further than ever, you know, on the whole violence globally and in the United States has decreased, over the decades since, since the founding of this country, and since Europe, or kingdoms, that's all been reduced. Famine, all that stuff, we've advanced, but there's always going to be that human factor, and there are always going to be people that that are evil, that are going to know, that are evil and smart, where they're going to know, okay, we live in a society now where everybody feels very secure and safe, so I can take advantage of this situation now because people aren't vigilant anymore. So it's people become sheep, or they're just not paying attention. Maybe they would do something if they knew what was going on, but because we all have our guards down, or we're distracted by phones and what's going on in the world around us, we don't pay attention. So we need to have more of an emphasis on that, and just have an acknowledgement that the world is what it is. And I don't know when we lost that. I think it was a lot of times it's after World War II. I think the world just kind of got tired of all the shit that was going on for like the last 1,000 years. In Europe, pretty much it was nonstop wars since the collapse of the Roman Empire. And so the Europeans are like, we're done with this. We're basically going to get rid of nationalism and all this stuff because it doesn't work. And we're going to combine our economies, and somehow we're going to let Germany get in control of all of it again through peaceful means. And we're just kind of agree to it.
Yeah.
I think
I think it's the quiet war. I think it's so there's this is what I love about talking to you, because there's so many different ideas and thoughts flowing around. I think what's been happening for a long time, for generations, is a quiet war that's going on. There's people out there who have deliberately decided to confuse society in order to win. And those are the people who've lost for a long time. Those are the people who have never won out, and this is the way that they're planning on fighting that war. You can look at it specifically like in communism or socialism that's around the world. This is how you do it. A lot of what we're seeing now is coming from places like Russia or China and other countries out there that are trying to manipulate us. Even from England. At one time, England, dominated the world. It was the United Kingdom. It made slaves out of everyone. And then today, they're out there acting like they're the most awesome people, to the point that we have, one of the British princes living over here because he got chased out of England, but he's complaining about us. But this is their way. This is a quiet war that they're waging on everyone. And what you have to do is confuse people.
I think it's just, like I said, it's a consequence of everything that happened after that. You've got the Federal Reserve, you've got the World Bank, all of those organizations, the World Economic Forum, the UN, organizations that were built after the Bretton Woods Conference, where you wanted to create this international standard. So some people call it the New World Order, some people call it the Liberal World Order. More recently, if you've been watching the news lately and the war in Ukraine, it's the rules-based order. So that's just the new name of what they have. So it's basically all the countries of the world, we're going to follow these same rules. It doesn't matter whether your country has a constitution or anything like that. That's irrelevant, because we're going to follow these new international norms and rules. And if you're not part of this system politically or economically, so basically if you shun the dollar, you're screwed. And we're going to use the United States now, that's a superpower, to enforce that throughout the world. And that's why we've got random wars that go on in different parts of the world. And you're like, why are they going on? And it's because the U.S. has to enforce and shake people down that don't use the dollar or don't want to use it.
I think
that's what we see a lot of times.
A lot of it is focused on America. If you look at the rest of the world is so much more fucked up than America. But if you think about America, in World War II, everyone else was getting crushed, man. Everyone was getting crushed, right? And America came along and fucked everybody up. Think about it. So America coming along and crushing everyone, there was this massive boom for America. What came out of that? Like America showing like, hey, this is a nation of warriors. If you get us started up, we will just come over and totally burn you down. I think
we got to dictate a lot of what happened. Europe rebuilt, and it was like, where are they going to get the money from? They had to get the loans from us. So they basically had to look at Japan. Japan was a feudal, like imperialist society. And then we wrote their constitution, and now they're one of the most successful countries in the world. But they kind of didn't have any choice over it. So for better or for worse, we basically said, unconditional surrender. This is what you guys are going to do. You have no choice, and you can't have an offensive military.
So just play that out unchecked.
Yeah.
Like the way the world should have gone after World War II. Basically, the rest of the planet should belong to America.
Yeah. Well, but then the Soviet Union was like, no, man, we're not going to let that happen.
There's a lot of people who didn't want to let that happen.
Yeah.
You think the British wanted to let that happen? They would have been toast.
The British played ball because they knew that that's what they had to do.
They were on their last days, man. They were on their last days. They were preparing their surrender. You know, so America unchecked should have been running the world. But this is how we wind up here. And what's happening, like right now, you've got places like China that have a lot of money and power, but not resources. And they want to get the resources, and what they're doing is fucking with us all the time. And same thing with Russia and even the British. And there's people within America, within our political structure, that are deliberately going along with it because they're like, hey, this is not going to affect me. I have enough power and all that I'm going to be insulated from this.
Yeah, well, it's that, America is like this fat person on diabetes that's about to die. Like, they've got every condition now because we've spent too much money. We're irresponsible. We've become lazy. We don't care about ourselves anymore. And the politicians don't give a crap because they created a global society where if the country collapses, sure, they'll lose their property here. They'll just go to other countries and they don't care anymore. So they're basically picking parts of the American carcass, and every other country is doing it around the world and taking advantage of it while they still can, because they know that at this point, America's kind of sold itself out. So China's probably going to be the next one. So while they're going to pull as much as they can out of America until China probably attempts to take over.
Yeah.
So
America should have been.
I think that's where we're at.
America should have been the utopia, right? And there's lots of reasons why. There's lots of reasons and things and what, the ideas that we came up with. I don't think it was perfect. I think we were moving towards that. And if you look at American history, we really got close. We're there. We're kind of there now, even though we're backtracking to where it doesn't matter like what your race is and all this kind of stuff. You can be really wealthy. You can build things. You can do things. You could change the world from inside of America. But now what's happening is this massive level of confusion is really messing up people in America. And this is what we see, like, we were talking about it before we started. What would people want to talk about today? If you look at the thing with Trump, this is one of those examples. Imagine the FBI. Do you know how people looked? I grew up outside of America. Do you know how people looked at the FBI outside of America?
No.
I mean, they looked at this is one of the most honorable organizations that existed on the face of the planet. Yep. This is what people thought. But when you look at it today, you're like, yo, what the fuck is going on? Is this the FBI doing this kind of shit? Yes. And it's not just like no one needs to cry for Trump. In my opinion. We can get into it and talk about the whole Trump thing. You don't need to cry for him. The FBI's been doing a lot of fucked up shit in the last couple of years, and no one has reined them in, man. They can pretty much do whatever they want to do.
Well, it's, Trump came in and basically put them on notice. And, for better or for worse, he let them know while he was running, I'm going to drain the swamp. People were screaming, lock her up and things like that. So they already knew. So, I mean, was that the right thing or the wrong thing? We all liked it, but that means the gauntlet was thrown. It was like, this dude is coming for us. So you saw from that moment, at first they thought he was a joke. Then he started winning in the primaries. Then he was the candidate, and they started realizing, crap, how did he make it this far? Then they're like, well, there's no way he's going to lose to Hillary. Then he won the election, and they realized that they'd completely fucked up. And at that point, they freaked out, and they went into overdrive. And I think Donald Trump, he called out the swamp. He always said all those things. But I think he himself underestimated how evil and the lengths that these people were willing to go to maintain their power and positions within,
or how deep it goes. It's not just the leftists, it's not just Democrats, dude. It's Republicans.
I think Donald Trump thought either he could cow them or he could use that to like, look, I'm going to say these things, and I'm going to get in, and people are going to play ball, and I'm going to play ball too, because I'm not historically a Republican. So if the Democrats are willing to kiss the ring, I'll roll some deals with them. But the Democrats didn't do that. They went all in.
Yeah.
So at that point, Trump was like, what the hell? He listened to advice to bring institutional people in, because it's like, well, I'm going to give, what is it? An olive branch here to the Republican
Dude, he didn't
Party
know how
because they're
deep. He
freaking out.
doesn't. He didn't know how deep.
No, he
this
didn't.
goes. No,
So
didn't know how
he
deep
ended up
this goes.
surrounding himself with a bunch of, I figure these military generals are honorable guys, but it's like, no, man, everybody's in on this. The military generals go and join the defense contractors after they retire. It behooves them, once they stop caring about their oath to the Constitution, that they're going to sell people out. They don't care about the grunt on the ground getting killed or wounded at this point. As long as they can get some sweet deal at Lockheed or Raytheon, they're cool with that. So of course they sold Trump out, and they didn't listen to his orders when he started wanting to withdraw from Afghanistan. Of course they went against him when he tried to go after Hillary and do all this stuff, because he was a threat to them, and he did not realize that everybody on both sides of the aisle, in all bureaucracy, whether it's in the military, State Department, FBI or DOJ, all that stuff, the intelligence agencies, it's all rotten. It's all rotten. Everybody plays the game, and Trump just kicked the hornet's nest, and they went after him. That's what's going on right now.
Yeah, man. I totally agree. Let me get this in before we take the break here. See if I can get this in. Armin and Axis gave us $5. He says, sad that history repeats itself because people don't pay attention to it and let it repeat over and over. Hey, Rolo, what's up, brother? That's from...
How's it going, Armin and Axis? Good to see you.
There you go. That's from Armin and Axis. Oh, yes. We're obviously getting deep. This happens every single time. Rolando's here.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to take a break, and then when we come back from this break, do you want to specifically talk about this whole Trump thing?
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's talk about it.
All right. So, yeah, let's take this break, and then we'll be right back. We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of great companies like High Point Firearms and Full Forge Gear, bags and gear for everyday life. Did you know High Point is an American family-owned and operated company located in Ohio with over 30 years of manufacturing experience? High Point is proud to be the home of the working man's gun and your source for affordable handguns and carbines with a lifetime warranty. So when you're in the market, please consider High Point. Yeah, so Trump. I mean, obviously, let's see. I could throw up the news if you. I mean, you guys know. FBI search of Mar-a-Largo helps show how probe of Trump documents has changed. I don't know, what is that? That's Washington Post. Everyone's got their spin on this thing. Basically, they, I was looking at Eric Trump talking about this. He said over 30 agents rolled up on them there with a warrant, stopped anyone. No one could even observe them when they were going through things. So I hope that the Trump family has got some people seriously going through there looking for bugs.
They had security cameras in a lot of spots too.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I'm sure they planted some shit in there while they were going through.
You can't go back to that spot. You can't go back to that place. Yeah,
I would have my own security watching that place for a long time, without a doubt. So they went in there and they got whatever documents or whatever it was that they were looking for. I think that what they were looking for, I don't think it has anything to do with January 6th. It's supposed to have something to do with documents that he took out of the White House.
Yeah, supposedly he walked out with classified documents, but the crap about it all is the president can decide to declassify anything that the president wants. So if Trump walked out of there with stuff and he's like, I've got this stuff that's declassified now, they can't do anything about that. He can't just give it out to other people if it's national security stuff, but they can't really, it's declassified now. So that those documents aren't anything.
Yeah.
So that's what the problem they're going to run into. They've been to Mar-a-Lago. They've been to Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago already shipped some boxes back a while. So to me, this just looks like the January 6th committee is bullshit, and everybody realizes that it's crap. Biden, the jig is up with Biden. Everybody knows that he just can't do it. He's like a zombie up there, and he's not really running the country at this point. He's just a figurehead and a puppet. And they're looking at a bloodbath potentially in the midterms, even though Roe versus Wade kind of rejuvenated the Democrats. But I think now this FBI raid I've seen some people that were some of those never Trump Republicans that are even like, okay, this is like cross the line now. Like
Mm-hmm.
he didn't go after Hillary. You can't go after him on something
Mm-hmm.
that's less than what Hillary did. Like this is absurd.
Yeah.
Like they
This
now realize like
this
they've
is what
crossed the
I
line.
posted today. This is what I posted. And by
Oh
the way,
yeah,
before this, if anyone watches the podcast, let me see if I can. Before this, right? If anyone watches or listens to this podcast, you know. And by the way, for the people listening, this is basically a picture of letters. It says, "I guess Trump is running." Then, because that's what I do now. I don't know. This is the best way for me to post on Instagram and all those.
Yeah.
I get in trouble if I do anything else. No matter what I say, shit gets deleted or whatever. But yeah, I guess he's running, and the thing is, I'm a person who didn't really, if you ask me, I would go, yeah, I don't want Trump to run. He was already president. He did what he needed to do. He's doing really well, I think, being a kingmaker in the background and helping get people elected and all that kind of stuff. And for me, America, for us to move forward, we can't just have one dude that's the only bastion of conservatism in America. It needs to be a whole bunch of other people that could step up and be president and be governors and senators and congressmen and all that kind of stuff in order to make this go forward. It can't just be Trump, and it can't just be about Trump's ego. But for sure, for sure, if he was not going to run before, he's going to run now.
Oh no, this enraged me. Like I was enraged. I spoke with Joe and my dad about this, and I was like, man, if I had a show today, it would be bad.
Go for it. You could be as mad as you want to over here, man.
Yeah,
so,
I know. Yeah, I know. But yeah, this
you.
really enraged me. It's beyond the pale because I don't think politicians should get away with things. But the fact that every single politician has gotten away with so much worse than anything that they could possibly get on Trump is really the problem here.
Yeah.
And
What president do you think came out of the White House and didn't take shit? Just tell me.
Yeah.
What
And let's be perfectly honest, they impeached the guy twice. They impeached him twice. They got nothing. They found nothing. They did the entire Russian collusion thing.
Every president took shit from the White House, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
They couldn't find anything on anything that they tried to throw at him. It was all bullshit. The dossier was bullshit.
Yeah. Walter was telling me that
to do with it.
Yeah, Walter was saying earlier that the Clintons took to China. Come on.
Yeah. So
what's up?
Yeah, it's completely it's complete crap. It's an intimidation tactic too, and I think at this point, I would have to say that if Trump and DeSantis were running, I probably would have voted for DeSantis just because I think he gives you a lot of the things that Trump gives you with none of the downsides. But at this point, I think we need Donald Trump because, like you said, we wanted to move forward, but now we can't. We can't move forward. We have to.
Trump is going to get the revenge. He's going to. I was talking to some friends over the weekend before this happened, and because every time, my friends are like you. Other people can't deal with me.
Yeah.
So you know this.
Yeah.
So I was like, listen, man, I don't really want Trump to win. The only way, or not to win, I don't want him to run. If he's the guy on the ticket, I'll vote for him. I'm not going to vote for Biden or anyone else on the left. So, but I said the thing is, it'll be a revenge vote. Like, that's why we'll be doing it. He'll be doing it for revenge, and we'll be voting for revenge. And I was like, how many people really want revenge versus, like, I want the country to move forward? But yes, what you're saying now, I think that they are pushing people into, well, fuck it. Now we're going to have revenge.
Look, if the FBI is doing this, it's rotten to the core. From top to bottom, it's totally done. The entire infrastructure of the federal government is corrupt from top to bottom, whether it is that everybody's being manipulated or that even lower level people have seen that the corruption on top, people get away with it. So they're like, at this point, fuck it. Everybody's taken from the ship at this point. So, or they just don't care. They just don't care.
Yeah.
And I've heard from people in the federal government that get angry that, people waste money and they don't care. It's like, we're wasting taxpayers' dollars. And it's like, yeah, we don't give a shit. It is what it is. We're going to continue to do what we do. And there's that lack of honor and accountability. So I think now we haven't faced this for a long time. For a while, it was just they were calling Republicans Nazis. They were saying these terrible things, and they were continuing to expand the size of the government. They went after the Tea Party and completely destroyed that entire movement. when people wanted to actually go for a smaller movement, the libertarians are always getting discredited, and I think they get sabotaged. So
Mm-hmm.
now we've reached a point where we can see. I mean, look what we talked about on our show. The Betsy Ross flag, the Gadsden flag, those are all now extremist symbols,
Mm-hmm.
potentially. So what are they doing? I think we've reached a
Or they're
point where
trying
it's
to
like,
make it
no,
that. They're trying to make it that if we allow
yeah,
that. Yeah, if
yeah.
we
So I
allow
think
that to
now
happen.
we're at the point where we can't move forward because we have now irreconcilable differences between the government and a large portion of the population, because it goes deeper than just what's going on with Trump. That's the huge symptom. That's like the bullet. That's the wound that's bleeding that everybody can see, but that's not the only thing that's killing the patient inside.
Mm-hmm.
It's we don't what are we doing to children? What we don't know what a man is, we don't know what a woman is. We're trying to
Mm-hmm.
convert children. We want states that have unlimited abortion up to the time of birth.
Mm-hmm.
So we've reached a point, I think, in this country where we need to have a come to Jesus moment.
Mm-hmm.
I would like it to be a peaceful one, but at this point there has to be a confrontation, and we have
Mm-hmm.
to say these are the things that we believe in, and we can't compromise on these things. It's not about, there are certain things that we just can't say we're not going to concede this. It's over. Like either you take this or it's done, because we're
Yeah.
not going to concede to you. So the solution is we're going to have red states and blue states have completely different laws, and unfortunately the blue states are going to violate the Constitution, which is going to cause its own conflicts itself. But I think that's where we're headed, because we need someone like Trump to basically dismantle the federal government. It needs
Yeah.
to be completely audited. But the problem is, if he makes it that far, they're not going to let him have it. They're not. There's going to be protests. You're going to have federal government workers basically refuse to take orders, to refuse to leave. I think you're just going to have an entire the federal government's basically going to fall apart.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what needs to happen. Maybe just by him being there, it's the collapse that we need, because you
Mm-hmm.
read the Declaration of Independence and you read the grievances that they had against King George, and so many of them are parallels to what we have with the federal government today and how much we've lost. So a lot of people are like, well, let's move on. Let's keep. There's no fixing it. They've destroyed the federal government. So
Let's
I just don't.
Yeah,
I don't
I
see
know
how we move forward
you're on
without a
fire.
purge.
I know
Yeah.
Rolando. He's mad. He's mad. Let me get this in because
Yeah.
Armin and Axis gave us some more money here. He said another 5. It's time for people to wake up and stop being sheeple and see the forest for the trees. They've been lied to. By the way, for too long. So listen. And there's some other comments in there which I'll get to here in a second. So here's my thing. You know, do you think that all of this stuff that's happening to Trump is going to mature him? This is, the thing I would want to say about Trump that everyone's worried about before this is that Trump is doing it for his own ego, etc., etc. But do you think that actually seeing how really fucked up and how deep the corruption goes here, and really how close we are to losing America, what we all thought it was, do you think it's something that can like switch around Trump's mind, and if he became president, get him to do better? Because I think the last time his big mistake was the people around him, and he didn't go far enough. He didn't focus enough. He got a little bit, like, they threw things out there and got him distracted, and perhaps even here this is what they were attempting to do, but I don't think they realized the reaction that they were going to get
the danger of what's going on here. Well, the danger here's what can happen to Trump. They might find things that have nothing to do with anything else, and they'll try to get him on it. If they don't, we already have Project Veritas has kind of shown that if the FBI tries to take you to court, they seize a bunch of documents from you. If they're not going to win, then they basically allow those documents to leak to the media. And it's like, oh shit, how did this get out there? Oh man,
Right.
It really sucks. So they try to destroy your reputation. So maybe they can't get anything on federal charges for Trump, but maybe Trump has way more mistresses that we knew about. Maybe he's got a lot of bastard children that he's paying alimony to, and all that stuff that we even more than we even know. And he's got embarrassing crap out there that he wouldn't want out. But now the FBI's got it. So it's like, hey, Trump, if you don't want this to leak out, you can't run for president in 2024. Like
Yeah.
they might just grab him by the balls and shake him down mafia
You
style.
really think
that's it.
they'll get something like that? Because
I don't.
I don't doubt.
Maybe they think. Maybe they.
Yeah,
think
I
they
don't
can
doubt
get something
anything.
like that.
I don't doubt
and
anything.
Unfortunately, Trump is so old school that he keeps paper records of everything. Man, he's just that kind of guy.
But think about this. Think about this, man. This
now maybe he has nothing. Now I think that they're not going to find anything. I personally think that that's what's going to happen.
Right.
But what do they think they could find? Why would they do this?
They may think they have something, and people
Yes.
might not give a shit. If we didn't care about grabbing them by the pussy, I mean, you know.
Yeah, I really
what
don't
do we-
see anything unless
you
you
know.
have like definitive proof that he actually was like working with the Chinese and the Russians to undermine the United States.
Or definitive racism.
Yeah, like if you're not,
I'm gonna say
that,
everyone's a little bit racist.
Yeah.
Come on,
and even
everyone's
then,
a little
at this
bit
point,
racist, me included.
The problem is, at this point, the FBI and the entire federal government is the boy who cried wolf times 1,000. So even if they found something that was true, I don't think I would believe it. I don't think I would believe it because they've lied about everything else. They lied about everything that had to do with his election. They lied about COVID. They've lied about the vaccinations. They've lied about all that stuff. Everything over the last few years has been a complete and total lie.
I think.
Why would I believe anything they tell me now?
Here's what I
think.
think.
That's the danger that they have.
Here's what I think. I think a lot of what we've seen over the last week has been the tail wagging the dog. So, you know, if anyone, people, I think most people out there would know what I'm talking about when I say the tail wagging the dog. That's just a political, what is it? Like a political slogan or words for saying that when you get in trouble, you create something fake. I think there was actually a movie out there by that name.
Yeah, wag the dog. Yeah.
Yeah, where basically the whoever the politician was in power, I think it was a spoof of Bill Clinton, was in trouble, created a war that didn't really exist before that, so that it could distract from the trouble that he was in. Okay, and this is a lot of what we see happening. Think about it. Why the fuck did Nancy Pelosi go to Taiwan? What was up with that? Why did she do that?
Yeah, because they wanted a distraction, piss off China, so that we're
at
all
the
like,
same
oh
time,
shit,
at the
China's
same
gonna go to war with us.
Right. At the same time, her husband's shit is coming up. You know, the fact that he was DUI, or you know, all the stuff with them, insider trading,
all that crap. Yeah.
All of that crazy. She decides to get up and go to Taiwan and do what she did. Now on the tail, and that new whatever that did, whatever effect that had, it obviously had an effect on what was leading in the news. Right. If it bleeds, it leads. So it had an effect on it. And then as that is starting to come off and people are paying more attention and they drop this stupid $740 billion, like at the time we're in a recession, that's the knockout punch, by the way, right? So they drop that, and next thing we know, you know what? We're going to just roll up and raid. We're just going to raid Mar-a-Lago. That's cool. Yeah. We're going to show Trump, even in Florida with DeSantis, you got no power. We could do whatever we want to do. A lot of it is the tail wagging the dog.
Yep. And now, unfortunately, we go into dangerous waters because, like I said, you look at that list from the Declaration of Independence, and you're like, how far do you go where the federal government has betrayed the American people? Where you're just basically like, well, I'm not going to take this anymore. Like when are people that are on the right or moderates going to protest in the streets? When are they going to be the ones that do the Million Man March to Washington, D.C.? Right. What's it going to take? And are we just going to sit here and take it? Because even if they don't take away our guns, if we never do anything, it doesn't really matter anyway. Because then the Second Amendment means nothing at that point. It's like you can keep them, but you're not going to. We know you guys aren't going to do shit with them, so we don't give a damn anymore. We're not even going to try to take them because you're a bunch of pussies. So, and I'm not saying that you need to do anything, but we don't even protest. Like there should be thousands of people outside of Mar-a-Lago right now protesting this and saying this is bullshit. Like at least carrying signs. You know, you don't have to be violent, but we don't even do that.
I think there were people protesting. Well, yeah. I don't know the number.
and that's what we need. But there should be the trucker convoy should be going to Washington D.C. now and basically block everything, you know, and shut that city down and protest, because at a minimum that's what we got to do, because clearly they don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about what the Supreme Court says, because it doesn't matter what they said about guns or abortion. The states are going to do what they're going to do, because the Supreme Court has no has no enforcement without the legislative and executive branch.
By the way, Babyface said idiom. Yes, I'm an idiot. I missed the idiom. There you go. Boom. You know what it is? Listen, I realized it from looking at the Joe Rogan with what's his face on there. This guy that was hiding in Russia. I don't know if he's still in Russia, but what is the name of that guy? Snowden. And Snowden said that after 9/11, there is no such thing as the Constitution. Americans just have not caught up to that. And yes, I think the problem is Americans, we're not the dangerous ones, by the way. We're not really the dangerous ones. The people who really truly understand violence, it's not to say we're not dangerous, but we are not the dangerous ones that will start the fire. We're not. It's the regular folks out there. They have not gotten to the torches and pitchforks moment yet because they haven't really gotten mad. Oh, it's going to happen though. It's going to happen.
And what also boggles my mind is that you have, so like we said, they demonize all these symbols of the American Revolution, historical symbols, anarcho-capitalist, the Punisher skull. So now it's like you're going after police and military as well. So I was like, you spent 20 years with these guys fighting the war on terror, and now you're saying that they might be extremists. I was like, when push comes to shove, who are they going to think is right here, and what side are they going to choose? You have men and women that have been fighting against terrorists for decades now. They know how to do counterterrorism, which means that they know how to counter the counterterrorism at this point as well. So it's what they're leading up to is the insanity, because I think what they want is they want somebody to make the first move, what would be considered the first move, even though at this point they've made like 20 moves. So, and they want to use that moment. I think they want like an Oklahoma City. That's what they want. They want something like that to happen so that they can use that as an excuse to basically declare martial law or do some sort of crackdown and basically see like, and maybe it won't be real. Maybe it'll be the feds that do it themselves. Maybe they'll instigate something. Maybe that you'll get, like I'm seeing a headline here that they're worried that armed militias are going to show up to Mar-a-Largo now and basically block it off to make sure the feds can never go in again. And I was like, that's what I figured would probably happen. The problem is we're now so deep in the rabbit hole after January 6th. Are those guys feds, or are they actually legit? Like, we don't even know.
No,
and how infiltrated.
If you have any brains, you sit back. You don't get.
Yeah,
and
the problem is too, like any group that might actually do something and put up some sort of resistance, they've all probably been infiltrated at this point.
Yeah, we're gonna take a hard break. Yeah. We're gonna take a hard break. Let's take this hard break, and we'll be right back. With Armslist, you can shop the extensive list of local and nationwide firearms classified, now with more confidence because of their built-in firewall. For only $6.99 a month for personal use, or $30 a month for business vendors. So when you're in the market, please consider Armslist. We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of great companies like Armslist. There's a whole bunch of different things going on. Let me throw this up. I forgot someone put that in there. So Trump ally Rep Scott Perry says the FBI seized his cell phone one day after Mar-a-Largo. Let's see what's going on with that. Perry, in an exclusive statement, I'm just reading it now, told Fox News on Tuesday that while traveling with his family earlier in the day, he was approached by 3 FBI agents who handed him a warrant and requested that he turn over his cell phone. The confiscation of the congressman's personal phone comes one day after FBI agents searched former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Largo estate in Palm Beach, Florida. So there you go. I don't know what that means, or if it has anything to do with anything, or this guy is just trying to jump on the clout. I think everyone needs to be careful. Me personally, what I believe is I grew up playing chess. I was playing chess before I could walk. So you don't ever let people manipulate you into moves, man. You move when you're ready to move and when you have to.
And I think they want something to happen because you can't have a movement without a leader. And for better or for worse, Trump is the leader. And like you were saying before, is he going to learn the lesson? I think, and I hate to use this parallel because I don't think Trump is this, but you just see too many instances through history. A lot of times it's in scripture where you see this imperfect man that's the one that's chosen, and they're the ones that become the person of that time. And a lot of times that's just the reality of the situation, because human beings aren't perfect. There's there are very
It's
few
the
Joans of
hero's
Arc.
journey, man. It's the hero's
Yeah.
journey. No
Yeah.
human being is perfect. This is
Yes.
why we identify with that. This is
Yeah.
what these guys
and
don't realize.
and sometimes in history, yeah, we might hear the story of a great hero that did it for the people, but we may not know that it's like, no, he didn't do it for the people. It's that the same people that fucked with the people are fucked with him, and now he's like, well, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, so I'm going in. And so the story gets lost over time. So like you said, will Trump do it for selfishness, or will he do it for the American people? If the end result is the same and it looks the same, I don't really care what the motivation is. If
Well,
the,
it's and it's
if,
not
if
it's
the end
not
result is the same.
it's
Yeah.
not just Trump, right? It's not
Yeah.
just Trump. He is a figurehead of something.
Yeah, he is. It's beyond
At
him
the
at
end
this
of the
point.
day, it's us. It's us.
Yeah.
We're the ones. It's not just Trump. It doesn't matter what. Like Trump's not in the White House right now, but we're still doing what we're doing. And what I mean
Yeah.
by us, I mean the people of America. People are getting sick and tired of this shit. It's not just the gun guys, not just the conservative people. You know, there's lots of people in America that are getting sick and tired of the bullshit, and they're like, man, how far do you guys want to push us? You know, we've accepted a lot of shit, and now it's just going too damn far.
And I think, like I said, they want to push to that point because I don't, we always talk about like, well, if anything ever happened, one side is going to win because the other side doesn't believe in being armed. And I'm like, the problem is that the world has seen a lot of different movements try to pop up, and if there's no organization, you can't succeed. So if the feds infiltrate everything, there's nothing that you can do. You're gonna have a bunch of people that do isolated things, and then the feds are going to stop things, and that's it. It's going to be over, and everybody else is going to get afraid, and then the feds are going to be able to say, see, we told you that this is what they were going to do, so now they're going to crack down, and even moderate Republicans will be like, yeah, I guess we do have to have gun control because people are just going to do
But
bad
here's
things.
the problem with that.
No.
If you look at the stats,
I think that's the goal. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
the goal ultimately.
But if you look at the stats, right? I think we were talking about this a couple of episodes ago. For the last 36 months, record gun sales over 1 million every month, right? That's the gun sales. That's not Republicans. That's not conservatives. That's not gun guys alone. I think from what I'm hearing, tea leaves out there, everything's flattening off right now. Everything's getting flat. That's pretty much because a lot of people, one is the summertime, right? So, for people who are disconnected from this, they're going on stuff with their families, doing all that kind of thing. Gas, etc. is expensive. Food is expensive, scarce, and people aren't starving in America yet. So there's things going on why that would flatten out. But if you look at the amount of guns that are out there, they can have any excuse that they want to, right? They can do anything that they want. People in America are not going to give up their guns. So if something kicks off, there's no way to predict how it's going to happen. None of us. No one can sit here and predict the outcome because you don't. Who is it that has the guns? Everyone.
Yep.
That's who has it. Everyone. Do you understand what I'm saying? And it's too late for that. And if folks out there are thinking that they can actually manipulate things and manipulate Americans, the last several years in America has shown most Americans who are out there, it's shown them like, hey, the only person I could trust and rely on is me.
Yep.
That's not just the guys on our side, right? Look at all the people who are still leaving California. Still leaving the West Coast, leaving Washington and all this kind of stuff. So, yeah, man, I think that people out there who think that they know what's going to happen with human beings when you push human beings in a direction, people who think they know what's going to happen, man, those are the really dangerous, crazy-ass people because they have no idea what's going to happen in America. I definitely don't. I don't want to see it because once it kicks off, man, no one knows what's going to happen in that thing.
Yep.
DCGs. I'm sorry. Let me get this from DCGs.
No problem.
Because we're totally ignoring everyone because we're having too much.
Sorry.
We're having too much fun. DCG 44 says, Hank, that flattening of sales is in relation to record numbers recently, not a loss of interest overall. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I've been saying that in a lot of things. So there's a lot of. I think guns falls in this category of things that you don't have to have. So there's things that people have to buy. They have to buy food, right? They have to buy transportation, or they have to get gas and certain things like that. Guns, not necessarily. and other things like nice houses they don't have to buy, and nice cars they don't have to buy, all of that. So we're going to see all of that stuff flattening out, but we're not going to see people stop doing that. We're just going to see something that was going up at a ridiculous rate start to flatten out, maybe come down a little bit and get back to reality. And a lot of people don't understand that. The thing I say about this is, if you think, let's put it in guns. Let's say there's a gun that you really like and it's $2,000 on a normal basis, and it goes up to $3,000, and it comes back down to $2,000, and you think, now if I keep waiting, this gun is going to be like 250.
Go back up, yeah.
No, well, some people think, oh no, it's going to come down to 250 bucks. Yeah. Dude, the world that we're going to be living in, if anything comes down like that, is not a world that you want to live in. So that's called, it's a lot of factors, including inflation. This is happening, like I've had this conversation with people about vans, because vans, yes, they're very expensive, you know, and they've gotten more expensive, and right now that thing's flattening off also. But people who believe that this luxury item that is normally, let's say, you know, over $100,000 is going to become like $20,000.
Yep.
If that happens, we are so fucked that that you're not going to be even trying to get one.
Well, yeah, and I mean, people need to be prepared for that. Really, let's be honest, because either way we go, inflation, or if we end up with a conflict in China, or at least it escalates to the point where we're not going to go to war, but we're going to cut off trade with China. That's going to be massive. That's going to be a massive loss for people. You're not going to have cell phones. You're not going to have computers, cameras, drones. All this stuff is going to be gone, like instantaneously cut off.
But we will have things. Years. We will have things that exist. I mean,
yes, yeah, but you won't get any new
new stuff.
Technology. Yeah. As far as technology goes, you will get like 90% of the things that you get and that you expect.
We're not getting a lot of
done.
That now because of the chip shortage. One of the things with this big $700 billion bill is that they're going to kick off making chips, right? Because that's the reason for all the shortages when it comes to tech, including in the auto industry. All right, how long does it take to actually build a chip factory?
It'll take like 5 years probably, because of
if they start now, somewhere between 5 and 6 years. If they start now, it's going to be like 5 or 6 years before that factory's rolling a chip out.
Yep.
So we're already in that. Yeah. We're already
you have to factor that while that factory is being built, chip technology is advancing. It's not slowing down. So the stuff that you're building for is either going to be obsolete the moment that your factory comes into production, or you're going to have to keep constantly modifying it, which means it's going to take even longer for it to come out, because you're like, oh crap, now.
Well, you have to build ahead, but in the no matter what, in the next 5 years, we're in the shit. And then the other problem is, where's a lot of this stuff coming from? Taiwan, South Korea.
And look, and people don't talk about what's the biggest thing that China does. Like 80% of our pharmaceuticals are made in China too. So you're going to lose like insulin, basic pills, all that stuff is going to go away. So that's the other thing that people aren't prepared for. That's a massive loss. Like China's going to lose out economically massively, and obviously we can try to cut them off from natural resources, but a lot of we got rid of so much that we used to manufacture in the US that for about 5 or 10 years it's going to take us to recover all of that. And who knows the chaos that may ensue in the meantime, because I think the one thing that you could say is that if the US economy crashes versus the Chinese economy, that we already know the Chinese government's going to crack down and send their military to stop anything from that happening. So the people there may not even try to resist. They'll just hunker down and be like, well, this is it. Like, we've got to, just like with COVID, we saw what China did. They locked everybody down. The people didn't resist it. And those that were resisted, they were just disappeared. There's
I mean, how can they resist? Yeah.
So the U.S. could fall apart in chaos because people aren't going to get their medications. You're going to have people literally dying because of that. There's nothing you'll be able to do about that. And at that point, people are going to be desperate, because it's not just going to be food that could be an issue. Food is the one thing the U.S. can produce. So maybe that's not going to be a huge issue here. If we just say, F the world, we're going to produce all of our food for ourselves, we can sustain ourselves.
But how many of us are hooked on medications that we have to have just to think normally?
Yeah.
First of all, I don't even like believe in that. Like, and trust me,
Yeah.
I take medications, right?
Hmm.
I don't think anyone escapes from that. But yeah, there's a lot of those medications that have to do with your mindset. And if
Hmm.
you are dependent on a medication for your mindset, I hope that you have some alternatives or you're
Hmm.
stacking, because yeah,
And
you know, food is not the big worry that we have to worry about in America. And to be honest, the rest of the world has to sell us shit in order to exist. We consume a third of what the world
yeah.
makes.
And
So
so, the problem is, look, we're at war with China. China is fighting and killing us in one way, and they're basically doing a reverse opium war on us, is what they're doing. So, for those that don't know, during the late 1800s, opium was being produced heavily in India, and it was being sold by British companies to China. And it became a huge problem there, where it was basically an opium pandemic, kind of like what we're having with fentanyl and opioids here right now, basically
mhm.
the same thing. So, the Chinese emperor at the time was like, this is ridiculous. I need to outlaw opium. So he went and did that. And basically the British were like, we don't give a shit. Like, our companies, we're not going to control our companies. They can keep trading stuff. So one day the Chinese finally like destroyed one of these, or through, basically they pulled a Boston Tea Party and got rid of a lot of the opium on one of these ships. And the British used that as an excuse of like, you guys don't fuck with our companies. And they went to war with China and beat the crap out of them. So China's not like other countries because they don't let that shit go. It doesn't matter that everybody involved with that and the generation after is dead. That's what they look at. And you
Mhm.
see it in their and how they talk. They reference things that happened,
Well, because
50,
they're still
100,
suffering.
200 years ago.
They're
Yeah,
still suffering
because
for that. Yeah.
they feel that China was never given a fair shake and that they would have already been a global power like 100 years ago if the West hadn't interfered. And a lot of that is true. Look, there's no doubt that the Western countries did terrible things throughout history, but now China's pushing that in reverse.
Everyone has done
Yeah,
terrible things to
they're
once again,
doing now. They're
the
doing all the
theme
same
the
crap
theme
that
is
Europe.
we're human beings. We do
Yeah.
terrible. I mean, Genghis
So
Khan, man, he run
yeah.
roughshod on the world. Yeah.
So that's what they're dealing with. So what have they done to us?
Hmm.
Well, obviously they manufacture almost everything they've got. So they've got us by the balls there. TikTok is a psychological weapon, as far as I'm concerned.
Hmm.
TikTok is what's pushing a lot of the psychological issues that our kids have today. It's pushing the basically the trans movement and all of that very heavily, and that is what is destroying the social fabric of our country. And Donald Trump was right to try to get rid of them. Now, what are you going to do? The problem is, as stupid as it sounds, like just get rid of TikTok. What you will do by doing that is you will have a generation or two of young people which never vote. It doesn't matter what you do, they never vote. They will definitely vote this time. And as stupid as it is, they will vote against the Republican Party if you get rid of TikTok. Now, should you do it? Absolutely. Are you going to lose the next election if you do? Maybe. And it's for a really stupid reason, but that's what makes it so powerful what the Chinese have done, because now they have a portion of our populace that's like, well, I can't, I love TikTok. I can't get rid of it. Now there are businesses that rely on TikTok. There are people that
Yeah.
have made millions of dollars off of
What
TikTok.
YouTube is
So
doing right now is all about TikTok.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're trying to promote shorts. Instagram does the same thing,
Hmm.
but the Chinese are using it to monitor people because obviously those videos are there. They were monitoring a lot of our troops that were using it. Uh, so that that that's been weaponized, and the
Hmm.
fact, we had, I think the FBI recently even said, how much the credibility the FBI has, but they said TikTok is a national security threat because of how they use it. So between Americans losing basically their will to live and doing drugs rampantly, and the Chinese putting fentanyl in those drugs so that thousands of people are dying every year in this country, that is the Chinese killing Americans. Those are casualties of war at this point. And the problem is that we live now in a country where the government has colluded or been corrupted by that government too. So we are incapable of fighting against the Chinese now because we're working for the Chinese to some extent. And by we, I mean our government or people within our government. We know the business deals that Joe Biden has had and many others have had with the Chinese, and now we're almost reliant on it. And it's going to take a guy like Trump. Trump understood, as much as a lot of people didn't like him, especially people like me at first, that I was more of that milk toast Republican, like, well, if we're just polite to everybody, then they'll be fine. No, that was the wrong approach. It was proven to be that way, especially because we didn't realize that a lot of Republicans were behaving that way, but selling us out and selling our rights with the Patriot Act.
My problem with Trump is I didn't believe before he went into the White House that he would.
I thought he was a Democrat in disguise.
Well, I didn't think he was going to go. I didn't think he was going to go hard enough. I think that once he got in there, he had a lot of people backstabbing him, and he didn't go hard enough. Maybe if he learns his lesson, he gets in. I don't really care who gets in there. Whoever gets in there, they have to try to do something. Because look, I'll be honest with you, man. If things in America really break, we probably won't see voting for a long time. There won't be such.
We won't.
Forget about voting.
I honestly,
it's not going to be.
I honestly think that there won't be one country after that. I think you'll have multiple countries that take up the space where America used to be, and it's going to be a major detriment to the world. I've always said that we're at a point in history because we see how Europe is and how they behave and what they did during the COVID lockdowns, the freedoms that the European countries and Australia took away from their people. So there's nowhere else to go. The U.S., as bad as things are, we're basically the last ones left. So I've always said that there's basically 100 million people in the United States that are the difference between freedom and suffering for the entire world. That's it. Like nobody else in the world, even most people can't even comprehend the concept of freedom that we have in the United States. And a huge portion of this country wants to get rid of it too. So there's maybe a third that's actually hardcore enough that would be like, yeah, we actually believe in this stuff. We're the ones that have to do something about it and say, no, we're not going to allow our government to become authoritarian like those. And we're going to continue to stand as the example and tell the rest of the world, we're not going to capitulate to your bullshit when it comes to global warming or trade or all this stuff. We're going to do what benefits the United States. And ultimately, if you want to come along for the ride and trade with us, you're welcome to join. And we'll respect the fact that you want to do, Germany first or Great Britain first or whatever country, you got to look out for yours first. Obviously, that's like looking out for your family, but we can still cooperate with our neighbors down the street. They just know at the end of the day, if my wife is in trouble, she's number one. I'm not going to care about you. And as long as we have that agreement, we're cool. And Trump also understood that humans are what they are. Sometimes the threat of violence is the only thing that you can do. It's like sometimes when you have a firearm, you don't even have to fire a shot because when the firearm is presented in a situation, sometimes that de-escalates everything. It happens with AR-15s a lot. You see videos all the time of people breaking in, somebody busts out an AR and the guys are like, nope, fuck this, I'm out.
You need to realize your life is in danger sometimes.
Yeah, and that's what Trump did. Trump was like, he went to Xi Jinping and Putin, and he was like, he's like, China, like, gee, if you go for Taiwan, I'm going to nuke Beijing. Like, I'm going to do it. And even if that's not true, the fact that he said it, they're like, holy crap. Like, this guy is like, he's not fucking around. Like, we can't mess with this guy.
You need a wild card. You need a wild card.
Yeah.
I think.
Especially in international politics, people, like we said, nice people are taken advantage of. Behaving nicely and civilized all the time ties your hands behind your back on the global stage because you'll always have a North Korea, a China, an Iran, a Russia that's like, well, we're powerful enough that we can be a little bit independent or we can help one another out. Us five can collude with one another and start our own counter to the UN or NATO.
We're taking a hard break. We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of a DAO or decentralized autonomous organization like TUSC Crypto. TUSC cryptocurrency is a firearm-friendly e-commerce option for online payment transactions secured on the blockchain. So when you're in the crypto market, please consider TUSC, TUSC. Yeah, Rolando, like I said, man, he's on fire. Listen.
You caught me on a good day.
Trust me, there's a lot of people. You're not the only one, my friend. One of the reasons why I do this is so that we could all talk to each other. I know there's a lot of people out there that are like big mad right now, and I'm with you. I feel the same thing that everyone else does. It's like something really dishonorable has happened. I don't think it's just happened to Trump. I think that it's happened to America when we look at a lot of things with the media. So, for example, if you look at these school shootings, where the fuck was the FBI when it came to the school shootings? They couldn't roll up 30 people or 3 people or one fucking person, when they saw all the warning signs with these school shooters, right? They couldn't do it, and then in this case here, a president, like, how old is Trump? Like 70 something? Where the fuck is he going? You
He's
know,
not going. See,
yeah, where's he go?
That's the audacity, and that's what makes you angry. That it's like, okay, so a lot of times the FBI's cop out is like, well, we can't arrest somebody if they're not going to do it. And it's like, so, okay, so in the situation where you're going to save people's lives, you're not willing to violate somebody's rights, but in the bullshit situations, you're more than willing to violate everybody's rights all the time, or violate the entire process by not investigating things in the first place, because basically not doing anything is a crime in and of itself, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
when they let Hillary and all these people go, what they're saying is, okay, the rule is now then, if you're an elite politician, you're untouchable no matter what side of the aisle
Hunter
you're on.
Biden
That's
put
the
people.
rule that we've got, right? No,
Hunter
apparently
Hunter
that's not the
Biden
rule
put
either.
people in danger, in like direct danger. They let it go. But none of that stuff is the worst thing. I think that the FBI has done horrible things to Americans, and it's time for Americans to be mad about it. The Trump thing just triggers all of us. Left, right, wherever you're at, it gets everyone going. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I
I
was going
think.
to.
Oh yeah, the IRS. Yeah.
Night Train says,
another big
please
deal.
discuss this disturbing weaponization of the IRS, hiring tens of thousands more IRS enforcers. That's what has me worried. So basically, that bill.
That's for crypto, 100%. I think a lot of it too, because now they want to go after. They're losing money. The government is falling apart. That now they need their cash. They need it. So now they're going to go after everybody that maybe made a mistake on their taxes. Now you're going to get shaken down. If you didn't report your crypto, they're going to come after you. That's what they want. And now whatever obscure rules they are out there, now they can enforce all the crap that maybe everybody's gotten away with over the years, either intentionally or by mistake, because you're just like an individual and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to use TurboTax. And then the IRS does not audit you and you're like, cool, I'm doing everything right. That's what this is for.
People don't realize the amount of shit that they have to pay attention to. People just don't realize it. They think a lot of things they don't have to pay attention to. And so for crypto, if for folks out there who don't know, you can have crypto all you want to. If you sell crypto for a profit, it's looked at as a stock. And you need to report it the same way that you would if you bought a stock for $5 and it became $50 and you sell it. You need to report that, okay? Just the same way you would do it. That's the rules. That's what it's under. That's just how it goes. And the thing about these, by the way, 87,000 new IRS agents. That's not a fucking joke, man.
No, it isn't.
That's
and
basically mobilizing an army.
Well, and how do you expand the size of the government in a time where people hate the government? You destroy the economy so that the government is the only one hiring. That's what you do. And you basically create loyalty through dependency. That's what it is. A lot of people aren't going to believe it. Most of the people in Germany weren't Nazis, but the Nazis were the only ones in town. They were the big game in town. So if you didn't work for them, you were out of a job. So that's pretty much how it works here. So I think eventually that's the direction they're going to. They're like, how can we possibly expand? How are they going to find 87,000 people to work for the IRS? Well, the economy collapses and things are bad. Everybody's going to be begging to work for the government.
That's going to be a lot of people working from home, fucking other people over.
I read the other day, like the FAA during the pandemic was basically having dudes working from home, watching YouTube videos to see people putting drone videos and trying to figure out if they had licenses or not, or if they were making money off that drone footage as YouTubers. Because if you make any money, if you have a drone and you make any money off of it, like if you film stuff and YouTube pays you ad revenue on that, you must have a 107 license to fly that now and register with the government. It's fucking ridiculous.
Years ago, man, I don't know if you're aware of this. I used to be into it. I used to have a drone, right?
Yeah.
And years ago, I made a video when they made all these rules, and I was like, "That's it. I'm out. I'm getting out." And people were like, "Why? What are you doing?" Because the rules are totally ridiculous.
Yeah.
You only put rules like that in effect so you could fuck with people.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from,
And
they could do to that what they can't do to guns because of the Second Amendment, right? So you can easily do it. Yeah. So I just got the fuck out of drones altogether. But if you look at it, look at what the ATF is doing to FFLs right now. Right? I think I could misquote it, but I think it's like 70% up that they're just canceling FFLs. So before, in the past, you had some issues. you could resolve those things. You could work it out. Keep rolling with your business. Most FFLs are not bad guys. Of course, there are some people out there that are bad guys. Put those people under the prison, in my opinion. But we're talking about an ATF that let guns go across the border deliberately. We can go on and on with that. But lately now, any little mistake you make, that's it for you in your FFL. You're done. There's no breaks and no chances they're giving to anyone. What do you think is like? Do you think they're getting 87,000 IRS agents so they can go after billionaires?
No.
If you're a billionaire, you've got the tools you need to hide your money. All you really need to do is put your money in trusts and things like that. Get lawyers, put your money in there, and that's it. You can live off of your money, and you basically become someone that can qualify for welfare if you want to, right? But you have access to a lot of money. They're getting all those agents so they can go after regular people. That's where it's at. The middle class, the people who aren't working. There's a lot of people out there who don't work, don't make any money. They file taxes, they get money.
Yep.
But they're going after the people who do work, who are in the middle class, to get their money.
I think they need to be careful because look, we saw what happened to Sri Lanka. This is essentially what they started doing. They said, we're going to control everything here, and if you don't capitulate, well, you're screwed. Well, eventually it's going to blow up in their face because we simultaneously live in a period, like I said, they are going to use the lack of the economy as an incentive, the economy being lacking as incentive for people to join up their institutions. But at the same time, like you said earlier, people have woken up now more than ever. So a lot of people are like, we're not going to buy this crap. I think where you're going to start seeing an issue is, I think ultimately it's going to have to be the state governments that act. And that's the only way that you get out of this peacefully is if the state governments call the federal government's bluff. And you need somebody like, okay, so Abbott right now is busing immigrants from the border to New York and Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and they're pissed off.
That's a great political move, but I think the right move would be for Texas to throw them across the border and kick them out, and then tell the federal government has violated its constitutional duty to protect the border of the United States. And because they have violated the Constitution, the state of Texas, under its own sovereignty, is taking the duty of defending the southern border now itself, because the federal government is either incapable or unwilling to hold its end of the bargain. So they are violating the Constitution. And what are the feds going to do? Are they going to go arrest Abbott when they do that? So this is where you call their bluff. Like, what are you going to do? What are the feds going to do? You're going to have a standoff between Border Patrol and Texas Texas Rangers or something like that. So I think this is where it needs to start, because I guarantee you, all those Border Patrol agents live in Texas. They're not going to shoot their neighbors that work with the Texas Rangers. This ain't going to happen. So that's going to force a change now, and it's going to show that the federal government is a paper tiger, and you start discrediting the federal government. It's it's dangerous because what could that lead to? It could lead to the destruction of the United States. But I think that more peacefully is you basically show the federal government is full of shit, and we're not going to stand for it anymore, because ultimately their power resides in us. Who works for the federal government? It's all of us. We do. So if you start doing things like that and the states say, no, we're not going to comply with this stuff, or we're going to take matters into our own hands because you're not fulfilling your duty, that's what we're going to do. So it's like the Second Amendment sanctuary things. What's the right thing to do? Suppressors and SBRs are legal in my state. If the ATF comes here, I'm going to arrest them because they're violating the Constitution of the United States by confiscating or arresting people for those things. They're violating the Second Amendment. So that's what it will take. And then you're going to force the federal government. Are you going to do something about it? I don't think they're going to do shit, because we saw what the Bundys did a few years ago out west when, the feds were trying to say you can't graze those your cattle on the land. They showed up with a bunch of guns and a bunch of cowboys, and they basically told the feds, go ahead and try. Like, what are you going to do? And the feds didn't do anything.
Yeah, well, they didn't have the standoff there, but they had the power and the time to wait them out. I think, of course, which is what they did. I think that
that's why you need a state to do it. A state is a more powerful entity at that point.
Yes, I think a lot of state and local is where a lot of this can be solved. I think what Abbott is doing, though, is smart for this reason. It is a political stunt. what he's doing, but he's doing it for a reason. Because if you take
it turns the people, it turns the people of those towns against the issue.
Well, yeah. If you take these folks that are coming across the border and send them back across the border, they're just going to come back across the border again.
Yeah.
And so what winds up happening is you're just destroying yourself because you're spending your resources to deal with them. So instead, what governors that are doing that are doing is saying, okay, well, I'm going to take these people and send them to New York. I'm going to send them to DC. I'm going to send them to these places, and they're now going to have to spend money to send them back across the border or back down here or whatever the hell it is. They will have to spend the money because the states, like a state like New York, supporting what California is doing is punishing. They know they're punishing Texas by doing that, right? So it works for them. They're slowly bleeding the state by doing it. So that's why it's happening. I'm not agreeing with it.
I think the issue happens. Okay, so Texas is counting on the voters in those areas to get pissed off about this and push political change. What I think these areas are going to do, and what they've already tried to do, is they're going to say, you are expanding my population. I'm now going to allow illegals to start voting in certain instances because now you've given me more voters. So they'll try to turn it around that way. Like, okay, so we were trying
That's
to
just
basically
they're going to destroy their own selves, though. But they're going to have to deal with what comes out of that instead of Texas having to deal with it, or other
but I
states
think
ultimately,
if you want my concept is we live in a world where the federal government is corrupt now. So if you want to convince the voters, you do what Abbott is doing. But if you want to call out the federal government and prove that they're full of crap, you have to do what I said. You have to basically say, I'm going to control the border now.
Yeah, I'm
going to do it.
I basically just capped a roach. I don't know if you saw that. I saw in my own thing, like if anyone goes back, you'll see that I saw a shadow of something crawl. I was like, what the hell is that going up there? His butt is in this thing right now. He dead. So, I probably didn't have to tell anyone that. I think that the problem with immigration is one that we can only solve when we decide to actually solve it. And I understand what states are doing. They're bouncing it off to these other states so they can see this is what we have to deal with. We have to spend money dealing with people coming in here. Then there are people out of those people that are committing crimes and doing all this stuff. Maybe you need to see this and feel it. That's what you're getting from the mayor of New York City when he says this is horrible what they're doing. Yeah, it's fucking horrible. That's how Texas feels.
The question is, okay, let's say. Now, the interesting thing that's been going on recently is the massive flip in the Hispanic vote, moving towards Republican, now getting to the point where it looks like, in some polls, it looks like the Hispanic vote is equally split between Democrats and Republicans, which is absolutely devastating for the Democrat Party. So do you think that, let's say that we have the midterm elections, and even if they try to do some shenanigans, it is so overwhelming that they can't do anything about it? Because what I think happened in 2020 is you don't have to rig the entire system in order to win. You just have to rig it in a few key places that are going to turn the tide. And I think that that's what happened in 2020, because you can't do the entire country. It's not going to happen because the states control their own, voting districts. But if you flip a few key cities in like a state like Arizona, where the population isn't that large, that makes a huge difference. In Ohio or Wisconsin, you can make a difference in states like that. Or I should say, not Ohio, Pennsylvania. So even if they try to do stuff like that, if the Hispanic vote, if those polls are true, they can't win. Like, it's going to be almost impossible for the Democrats to win an election for decades. Will they change their mind, and will we see the Democrat Party say we need to shut down the border now because these brown people are no longer giving us what we want out of them? I think that'd be pretty interesting to see. And I personally, as somebody who's Hispanic myself, I personally can't wait to see this come true, not just because of politically what the implications are. I can't wait to see what the reaction is going to be. How quickly are they going to betray and turn on brown people in this country and say, well, they're just as bad as white people. They're that, or are they just basically going to, at that point, is it going to blow up their entire identity politics agenda? Because now they're going to be basically at the point, they're going to be between a rock and a hard place. They're going to be like, well, everything that we did cost us Hispanics, but at the same time, we called white men like racist for doing these things. Hispanics clearly agree with that. So what do we do? Do we now throw Hispanics under the bus and say that they're racist, or do we change our ways to try to get them back? And I think that it's going to put the Democrat Party in almost an impossible situation, because they've gone so hard and so deep on the identity politics that if either blacks or Hispanics like basically repudiate that, it's over. Like they can't win. They are entirely reliant on the minority vote at this point to be successful. And I think, and again, as a Hispanic,
I feel like I'm under attack.
This because
right now I'm under attack of flying creatures. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's no problem. Like, I just don't. Hispanics have always been conservative, because whereas I would say the more European population of the United States has slowly been moving away from religion and things like that, Hispanics were still on that bandwagon. The black community was on that bandwagon for a long time too. Then the government destroyed the black community in the U.S. because they knew that it was going to be a problem because blacks were going to become conservative. So I think that that's why they basically destroyed, they used the welfare system to destroy the black community so that they wouldn't be a voting threat. They weren't able to do that with Hispanics because unlike black people in America, a lot of them obviously are descendants from African slaves. Hispanics are not. You don't have that. We come from different countries. A lot of us don't even like one another. So we're not there. You can't throw history at Hispanics because it's going to be different to all of them. Some people aren't going to care.
Yeah, most Hispanic people got over that a long time ago. Every race has been enslaved.
And then people like me, are Puerto Ricans, we're Americans the day we're born because Puerto Rico is a U.S. Commonwealth. So I don't care about the border. That doesn't affect me whatsoever. Puerto Ricans don't give a shit about that. Our politics have to do with, do we want Puerto Rico to become a state or not? And why should it be a state? So it's a totally different issue.
When anything that touches you, you start taking it to heart. So it's easy to pull people's strings, like, oh, you're Hispanic, these guys they want to shut down immigration because they don't want people like you coming across the border. And then when you live here and you realize that people could just come into America and do whatever the hell they want to, you're like, oh, wait a second. I lock my doors every night. I don't want anyone coming into my house and doing whatever they want to do. So maybe we should lock the borders and not let people, come in here and do whatever they want to do. All of these things, until it doesn't touch you, you can be pulled and manipulated by this stuff. And then when it touches you, you react to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the thing. I don't know what is going on in here. All of a sudden, it's like every single.
You leave the door open?
I don't know if something is open or what the hell is going on, but it's like there's things coming from everywhere in here right now.
It's one of the top air vents. Sometimes you open that to let the heat fly out.
No, everything's closed up. I gotta. Actually, what I probably need to do is drop bombs. First of all, this is Florida, man. Like every single freaking thing is alive here.
I know. It's the freaking jungle.
Yeah, we're constantly working to deal with stuff. But it's so crazy. If I had like another camera in here, you guys would have seen me like fighting off stuff flying over. Then Lola comes in here now. Now she's mad because she doesn't see anything. She just thinks I'm going crazy. Just stay here for a little while, Lola, so people can hear you. People can hear you. People can hear you scream. Yeah, I can't show Lola right now, but you just hang out here and be my bodyguard for a minute, Lola. Anything tries to attack me, you take it out. There you go. Listen, we're going to take a break here, and we're going to come right back. I think we've got at least another segment here that The Who Moved My Freedom podcast is made possible by our partners at 2A Commerce. Veteran owned and with over 20 years experience, 2A Commerce is the leader in custom e-commerce and web application development in the shooting sports industry. Clients include major brands such as Guard Dog Body Armor, Sylvan Arms, AccuFire Technologies, The Tactical Games, Warrior Knife Company, and yours truly, Hank Strange. Visit 2A Commerce and support this show by supporting them. Once again, visit the number 2acommerce.com. All right, so I'm back here. This is the reason why I need my Zip 22. If only it worked. Have you ever seen the Zip 22?
I have seen it. Yep, I have. I've never shot one or anything like that, but I've definitely seen them.
Yeah, so here it goes. It does use the Ruger magazine, which is cool. So you can use these, or
Nice.
it comes with this the little tiny one that you could
Hmm.
put in there if you do it the right way. Hold on a second. There you go. So you can be super compact. It can also, um, you can put things on here, and I think they had a design where you could put this, if on the bottom of an
Of an
AR.
AR, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, like
which
an
would make
underbarrel thing.
yeah, which would make it an SBR. The really
Yeah,
dangerous part is that they put. Let's see if we can get it. Okay, so they put the charging handle right there, which a lot of
of the
times,
barrel.
if you're not looking, you think you go to
You're
the.
gonna burn yourself.
Well, it's right there where the barrel is, so you could
Yeah,
easily, potentially you could easily shoot yourself. So,
that's true.
but I love it. It's a bullpup, 22, and it was not obviously not a very successful
Yep.
venture. So there's not that many of them out there, but
I
I'm
don't.
glad I got one. What you got?
I forgot that I forgot that on your show we can show guns, but so I don't
Yeah.
have anything close to me except for
Oh,
just
you
my
got something.
AR-15.
That's
Just my
badass.
AR. So this is a new build. Joe and I did. We were trying to find a build that would, basically like an unbannable build. So like nothing like an SBR or pistol, just so
Mhm.
that we could have our one general, like your general purpose rifle that you can use in almost any situation that's your go-to.
Mhm.
That'll be pretty flexible. So we kept the lowers that we had. So she's got like a Smith and Wesson lower from an MMP that I had, and then this is a PSA, but it's fully built out with a CMC trigger, and I've got everything up top is all arrow. So it's arrow bolt, arrow barrel,
Look
all
great.
that's an Atlas. Yeah, it's an Atlas S1, and then I wanted to try an LPVO. I didn't want to spend too much money on it because I wasn't sure if I would like an LPVO. So I
Okay.
got this is a Swamp Fox Arrowhead, and it's a 1 to 8 by 24. So I've used it. I used it at Train and Learn, and I actually really liked it a lot. I thought it was fine in daylight. Some people said that they don't think it's bright enough in the daylight. I thought it was perfect, and it was freaking balls hot out there.
Mhm.
So it worked really well. The battery lasts a long time, and I'm just a huge fan, and I think it's just from playing video games of LPVOs, because just being able to go from 1 to 6 or 1 to 8 or 1 to 10, like these can
Yeah.
do. And I think this was like $360, so it wasn't bad at all.
Low power
Uh,
variable optic for anyone
yes,
out there who's new,
and the
not
fun fact
initiated.
about this particular model is that the 1 by 10 model, some dudes in the 10th Mountain Division took out in Afghanistan and mounted them on scars, and scars are pretty notorious for destroying optics, and they ran them through their paces on their rifles, and they didn't have any problems in Afghanistan. So
Cool.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's very
So
nice. It looks great.
yeah, I like that optic.
What's your
Yeah,
What's the
Magpul furniture.
bipod? Yeah, so
Yeah,
that the
yeah.
bipod is
It's
Magpul.
all yeah, it's a Magpul bipod. I just had it on there because I was gonna when I was zeroing out the optic, I wanted a bipod, so I just threw it on there. Usually I don't have the bipod. I'll put like a vertical foregrip or something like that. I forgot which Magpul stock this is called.
Let's see it. Let
What
me
is it? The
see. Someone will
RC, the
tell us.
RCS, the ACS. This is the ACS. So it's got the storage. It's got the bigger cheek weld.
Hmm.
So since I knew I was going to be running a scope, I wanted a bigger cheek weld. I love it. I think it's really comfortable. Joe's build out is pretty similar, but she's got a red dot because she wanted it to be as light as possible. So she's got her rifle's in the safe, so I don't have it right here. But
Hmm.
hers was cool because it was we became part of the Brownells Bureau of Propaganda.
Nice.
So Roy, we love Roy. Roy's a great guy. We're friends with Roy, and he was like, "So, do you guys need anything?" And I was like, "Well, I've been trying to build a rifle for Joe." And he's like, "What do you need?" And then next thing you know, a rifle showed up. Basically, all the parts for a rifle showed up like 5 days later,
Hmm.
and so we built Joe pretty much the same basic setup, just with a red dot instead of the LPVO. So
That's
it's a
very
little
cool.
bit of a lighter weight build,
Yeah.
hers, and she loved it. She did great with it, and she felt a lot more comfortable than the build that we used last year. I think it was like about a pound heavier, and that makes a huge difference, especially for a woman. And then just the regular A2 stock wasn't as comfortable, so she really likes that build, and she was a lot more confident with it.
Yeah, that's
So
very cool. I was thinking when you were talking in the beginning about, how you got with the geeks and gamers and all that.
mhm.
One of the unfortunate things, like the gun world, is a little bit different. I think
Yeah.
other worlds are more accepting of people and all that. Obviously, you got to vet people a little bit, so I'm
Oh
for
yeah.
that. But the gun world is more clicky and all that kind of stuff. But there are folks in the gun world that don't operate that way and
Hmm.
are more welcoming and all that. And Barnauls, Roy's one of those dudes. There are people out there. Maj, for example, I think is one of those people as well
Hmm.
that, he always tries to put a bunch of different people together and,
Yeah.
think outside of the box of what he's doing. There's a lot of people out there that do that. I think, the whole Iraq veteran crew is
Hmm.
like that. That's why they put on that event every
Yep.
year and invite folks out there and all that kind of stuff. So that does happen in the gun world. I wish it happened more. I wish there was more collaboration and more partnerships and letting people come
Well,
into the fold and helping develop people, etc.
and it's definitely a goal. Geeks and gamers, they just have they've gotten different connections throughout the years, just like anybody else. You never know who
Yeah,
you're listening to or who you're going to meet or who likes your content.
yeah.
So they
I
became
think I
very
said it
close.
wrong, right? I said the wrong thing. I know.
No, no.
Okay.
They
Mm-hmm.
became close with John Bartolo about a
Mm-hmm.
year and a half ago, or almost 2 years ago, and that just kind of came out of nowhere. He just happened to watch one of their shows and really liked them, and he invited Jeremy and the crew out to Vegas to his studio, and they became fast friends. And he kind of like gave them a glimpse into the gun world
Mm-hmm.
and all that kind of stuff. So they actually have 221B Tactical. It's run by a gentleman named Suresh. He's a good guy. He's former law enforcement, lives down here now in Palm Beach. Actually was at SHOT Show. If you see photos at SHOT Show, he was the one hanging out with like Kimberly Guilfoyle and Trump Jr. at SHOT Show.
Okay.
So he started
Mm-hmm.
a tactical company, and really his claim to fame was he created this material that goes in between your plate carrier and your body, and it's like a moisture wicking gel material. And the Air Force actually got his contract for it. So that's how he built his company. He also does, plate carriers, tactical equipment, helmets, and they do bags and patches and all that stuff, like the usual stuff. But he's got a pretty cool bag. So he's going to start doing a lot of the merch for Geeks and Gamers. So the patch that you see here, you're going to start seeing a lot more patches from them. His tactical bag, it's like the coolest range bag that you've ever seen. I think it's called the Hondo, and it's like 110 bucks, something like that. And
What's the name of the
uh
company?
221B Tactical.
221B. Okay,
Yeah. 221
221B
Bravo.
Tactical. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
I'll pull up the website while we're talking here.
yeah, he might have the Geeks and Gamers page up already. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's see if we can get the.
so
Oh,
he's a
okay.
good guy. I got to see some of the stuff that he created. Yeah, they do have a Geeks and Gamers tab actually.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay.
221B collection / Geeks
Yeah.
and Gamers.
Okay? There's Geeks and Gamers already in there. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me see if I can send it to you in our chat
Yeah.
here.
I could probably pull it up.
Okay.
Yeah. You would have to text it to me. So I'll just search Geeks and Gamers.
Yeah, Geeks and Gamers 221B Tactical, and then it shows up. That was the first choice. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah, I see it.
the bag is cool.
Yeah,
It's like a
it's
range
right here.
bag, but you can put plates in it. It
Hmm.
basically blows up. You can use it
Oh, the
for
Rebel Pack.
pretty much anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. This Rebel Pack is
So
what
yeah,
you're
you can see
talking
how it
about.
opens up. I liked it when I saw it. I thought it was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of fit the niche of what I was looking for, because I wanted a bag that I could either use for range equipment or podcasting stuff, because we've got our setup able to go on the road,
Mm-hmm.
bring a bunch of cameras and all that stuff. And honestly, tactical bags are better than a lot of purpose-built tech bags, just because we love to have our pockets in our tactical bags.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this works, and eventually, he wants to make a purpose-built bag eventually. That would be pretty cool. So, but I think it's good stuff. So they're branching out that. So obviously, this is already on the tactical side of that. He's hung out with Tony Sentimont. He's big on IG. Our friend Hustle Queen hangs with him, and he did a lot of he's former military and law enforcement, and now he does a lot of. He's actually a character in Call of Duty. So we're already seeing kind of that bridging of the gap and bringing the two worlds together. I would love to take a lot of the Geeks and Gamers team to SHOT Show and bring them out there and, you know,
Oh,
kind
that'd
of
be
expand
cool.
that even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's what we need, because I keep thinking back, if you're on the internet and you see the meme, there's a meme with James Franco and he's at the gallows and he's looking at another guy that's freaking out, and James Franco's totally calm about it.
Yeah,
And
like,
he's
is
like,
this your
first
first
time
time?
here? Yeah, is
Yeah.
this your first time here? And that's how we are in the gun community. You know,
Oh, oh, I'm not sure why you froze up there.
for decades, even been after and what we do. And oh yeah, we kind of skipped there.
Yeah, you froze there for a
So-
second. Are you getting on the
I saw
internet in
that.
here, Lola? Yeah, that's Lola. That's Lola's fault.
Okay.
Behave yourself. Behave yourself.
So, so now I think it's cool, you know, bringing those two groups together, because now people are seeing basically their First Amendment get attacked, and I can't even have an opinion on what movie I like, or I can't even criticize a movie when they destroy it. I'm called a racist. I'm called all these things, and it's like, hey, that's what they call us. That's awesome. Like, let's combine forces. And honestly, one of the coolest things that I saw was when people started finding out, because Jeremy didn't even know what he got when he brought us in. You know, he just thought that we were cool and that we, you know, handled the chat really well, and he thought that we'd be charismatic. And obviously Johnny and Ripa vouched for us. But, you know, once we started getting in and doing more stuff, he was like, holy cow, like you guys bring even more to the table than I thought. And I'm excited because it aligns exactly with what I want. So many people in the chat have been, now that they know that we're gun people, they've come over, and our channel went from, you know, 780 subs or something just before that to now we broke 1,210 and we just got monetized. I couldn't believe that we got monetized, because I figured after they saw a couple of our shows, especially the one with Maj, like they would have just deleted our channel after that.
Right.
But YouTube is really weird when it comes to social commentary. And one of the things that I've seen is that when you watch a Geeks and Gamers stream, especially Friday Night Tights or Tuesday Night's Main Event, or you watch Ripa, the things that they say, I think a lot of people, even in the gun community, would be like, holy crap, like YouTube hasn't like banned these guys. They haven't like thrown these guys off the internet. And clearly they've found something.
They're worried about the audience they're going to lose. If
yeah,
they do that,
the audience has gotten so big that they've created this space now where they're not impervious to what YouTube does, but YouTube is basically like, oh crap, like these guys are just they're doing too good, like we can't get rid of them. And they bring an audience that we can't get. And I think YouTube, more than the other social media companies, because they actually make a ton of money, they're the ones that, guns are taboo. Obviously showing guns is, but other stuff, like they're just really weird about it, especially Ripa. Like Ripa just gets away with stuff that I'm like, man, nobody else can say what he says. And YouTube has tried to go after him a few times, and he's just like, I'm gonna oppose the strike, and here's my lawyers, like go ahead and talk to them. And YouTube's just like, fuck it, like we're not gonna do it. And
we should have been doing, you know, we should have been doing that on our side more.
Yeah.
But, you know,
and I think
the single guys out there don't have the resources to do it.
And I think I think the bigger, the thing that I see here is that with Geeks and Gamers, Nerdrotic, and Ripa, you have an alliance here of a lot of big names. And I don't think that that's something that we necessarily see so much in the gun community, this kind of collusion to come together and lift each other up. And they all refer to one another, and they each grow each other's channels. And anytime that they bring some of us, like the new people or the lower, you know, the smaller channels in, they always work to boost them. Disparu's another guy, he's in Great Britain. His commentary on like Lord of the Rings is top notch. This guy's incredible.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
He had like 2,000 subs when he first got in, and they gave him a shot to speak on Friday Night Tights, and people saw like this guy is legit. Like
I think he wears 9-line shirts. That's how I was like.
Yes, a lot of guys. A lot of us wear 9-line shirts because Drunk 3PO actually he got the deal. This is his hat, the Rebellion. He's really tight with Gina Carano, and he's built this kind of friendship with Gina Carano, and Geeks and Gamers has you know kind of benefited from that. And Gina's met most of the team. I didn't get a chance to meet her. We weren't part of the team at the time, but he kind of created this entire thing like the Rebellion, and that was the opposition to what Disney did to her, firing her from the Mandalorian because she wouldn't toe the company line. And you know, politically, when it came to Trump or conservative values, and obviously COVID and the vaccines, she was pretty outspoken with not being intimidated by any of those things. And Disney sacked her. So they kind of took Disney's whole the rebellion fighting against the empire and turned it against them. And now this is Drunk 3PO's line of apparel. John
Mm-hmm.
Bartolo kind of hooked them up with 9line, and that's how that
Oh,
entire
cool.
partnership came up with.
Mm-hmm.
So now you see already there. Now there's a collusion between people in the gun industry and the gun community now with people that are in the social commentary industry. And so you're already seeing an expansion of both audiences. Like I said, people in the chat are like, oh, this is the gun that I carry. Like, what guns do you like? A lot of people have come into our chat and they're like, I didn't know what to expect because obviously you guys are on Geeks and Gamers, and I pretty much run a lot of the live streams with Fortnite and other live games there. So people see me as like, oh, well, Rolo is the guy that plays video games and he's pretty good at games. And his wife Joe's there too, and she's pretty awesome. And she's good at games too. So it's just cool. Like they're a married couple that plays video games. Awesome. But they come to our channel. A lot of times we've been doing more game streams on our YouTube channel, and that was to get the watch hours up because
Mm-hmm.
we just saw that the game stream started doing very well.
Mm-hmm.
And then people would stick around and watch our podcast, and they're like, holy crap, like what you guys talk about is awesome. Like I've never seen anybody like kind of bring these two things together before. I think Ripa is the one that's the closest that does a lot of that stuff, where he'll talk about the comic book industry, entertainment, and then he talks about libertarian values. He'll talk about guns. He'll talk about freedom and all that stuff. So I think what he does is awesome. And it's not that we've emulated it. It's that I think that that's the most effective way to do it. It's that people want to be represented. And that doesn't necessarily mean represented by your skin tone or anything like that. They want to be represented by people that have the same ideas and values that they do, the same interests. So when a lot of guys are like, wait, you guys are into guns? So many people started DMing us and saying like, these are the guns that I have, sending us pictures. Like, it's so cool that now we've got a gun, two gun people on Geeks and Gamers. We can talk about guns. Jeremy always like pumps us up and is like, they're the gun people. Like if you're into that, check them out. So it's been really awesome, kind of that synergy that we've
I
come
think
together here.
I think that the gun world, the separation, the reason why we don't have that in the gun world, I think a lot of it starts with the print guys. In the gun world, the print guys are the worst. That's what I found out. I mean, I've been in some really bad situations with the traditional guys who write for magazines and stuff like that, and they really hate YouTubers and really don't like dealing with YouTubers, and then that kind of thing, the old school, the people who came into the YouTube gun world doing it kind of took on all of that. Not all of them, as I said. I don't think everyone does that. But I just don't see the kind of cooperation that I see the guys who do ham radio cooperate. One of the things, like, they don't go live when another ham radio guy is going live. They sit down and they go, oh, okay, you're going to do this time on Friday. I'll do this time on Friday. I'll do Thursdays. They sit down and they figure all this stuff out and work together. And we don't have that because I think we're just, like, acting like crabs in a barrel from the beginning, starting with the print guys, and then that just keeps getting transferred through. But it's the way that it is. Eventually, evolution will happen, and that's what's going on with you and Joe. I think that it's evolving and it's changing, and it doesn't matter if the old school guys like me are doing it that way. You guys are going to bring in the new way of doing it.
Yeah, and I always go back to gun websites, G-Webs. He's always in our chat. He's been there pretty much from the start. And one of the things that he calls our show is that he calls it a 2A experiment. And I always kind of like that. When the first time I saw that, I was like, man, I wonder what he means. And that's exactly what it is, because it's not all about the guns for us, because our passion has been stuff beyond that. Like, I've owned guns since I was 21. That's less than half of my life. So, and I didn't grow up around them. What I care about is freedom. What I care about is the Constitution. I always had passion for those things growing up. And then when our gun rights started getting assaulted, that changed my perspective, because I'd owned guns and taken them for granted. And that kind of ignited what ignited me politically, but that's not the
end all be all.
It wasn't the end all be all. And that's not that wasn't what I was into in politics for a long time. So what it did is it unleashed everything else. Like today, we talked about history and a bunch of other things that had nothing to do with guns. But we always try to bring it back of the guns are important because of all these other things, because they're the insurance policy, the safety valve of we never want to use them, but they're here to make sure that bad things don't happen. But if they do, then we have at least some way to deal with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And that goes with so many other things. And I think
Yeah,
with
we're gonna
the
take
pop.
a sorry, man. We're gonna take
Oh
a
yeah,
hard
go for
break.
it.
Let's take this hard break. We're gonna come back. We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of manufacturers like Safety Harbor Firearms. SHF is a quintessential family-owned small business, totally representative of the American dream. Safety Harbor Firearms is a Florida-based manufacturer of the compact entry stock and the SHTF 50 upper for an AR-15 lower. Also, SHF happily delivers on your Sten gun parts needs. So don't forget to check out stenparts.com and safetyharborfirearms.com. All right, so before we get into it here, Skivvy Waiver says, from a ham operator, not all ham operators are courteous, just like not all gun folks are courteous. Yeah, that's true. The grass is always greener on the other side,
Yep.
all that kind of stuff. I think at the end of the day, we need to not look at each other as competition as much as we all do. We're not crabs in a barrel. Everyone has a place. One of the things I've always thought when I met you and Joanna is that, wow, here's this young couple that is a lot like me and Lola, husband and wife. You guys go pretty much everywhere together. You rock and roll together, but you're younger than us, and it's good to know. It's good to see, because if I see you, there's probably 10,000 people just like you out there. And so that's why we need these kinds of things. What a lot of people think is like, oh man, these guys are coming to take my spot, or I'm going to lose this thing or that thing. And I think for sure, some of that happens just because of the way that everyone does what they do. But at the end of the day, there's something for everyone out there, and we all have a role to play in this thing. And we can all find where our role is, and we can all encourage people to do things and help them out. And it's not always going to work out, but I think overall that's what helps move everything forward. And that's what I see with, you're talking about the gamer guys out there and the folks talking about movies and all that. I look at that stuff. I'm a big nerd. I'm into sci-fi. All of that, right? I'm into some of the comic books, not all of them or whatever, but we're as human beings, we're into that, and it's cool to see those guys getting out there and supporting each other and not acting like, oh man, if I help this guy blow up, everything's gonna run out of control and he's gonna be bigger than me. This is how we all move forward. At the end of the day, as human beings, the people who feel and think the way we do, we're not gonna survive if we can't figure this out, how to help move everyone forward and help people shine where they should shine. I don't think everyone is going to be great at doing a podcast, right? I definitely am not the first person to do a podcast, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't help people do podcasts, right? That's how you figure out what you
That's
you
how
like.
we got started.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you all figure it out. So, I mean, I don't want to make that run on, because obviously we need to wrap up here. But I think if anyone's listening or looking at this and you want to take something away from it, the overall story of Rolando and Joanna to me is that, hey, you came into the gun community, we did help you, right? I think
Absolutely.
there's not just me. I think I did a little bit to help you, but there's lots of folks out there that did more and more, and when you put that all together, that helped encourage you guys, keep you guys here doing it. And I'm not even surprised that other people have discovered you guys. And you're just at spark stage right now. A lot of what you guys are doing is going to get bigger than this. So I'm proud of you, man. Congratulations on everything. Keep doing it. Keep kicking asses. And even having this conversation tonight just reinforces why I think, you're badass and very deserving of everything here. So
Thanks a lot, Hank. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome, man. You're welcome. And let me get some stuff. Armament and Axis says Ro and Joe are great peeps.
Thank you. Thank you, Armament. Good to see you, buddy.
42 Chill says necessity is the plea for every infringement of human freedom. It is the argument of tyrants. It is the creed of slaves. So there you go. That's it's going in on that one. Here's what I want to do. Obviously, we'll have you guys back over here, but I want to give you a chance to tell the folks out there, where can they find you guys? What can they do to help support you and communicate with you and see what you guys are doing?
Yeah, well, you can check us out on YouTube. That's our primary platform. at this point. So we're locked and loaded Latinos on YouTube. It's and as the ampersand, so the symbol. We pretty much use that on all social media, but nowadays you'll see us primarily on YouTube. We also stream on Twitch, video games every once in a while there. If you want to see Joe and I outside of our channel, you can check us out on Geeks and Gamers Play. That's the Geeks and Gamers kind of live streaming channel for game streams. We stream pretty much for sure every Wednesday, but a lot of times it's almost every day. Sometimes if Jeremy wants to play some Fortnite and he's got that hankering. So we're probably going to start playing some Call of Duty there, since Modern Warfare 2 is going to be coming out in October. So you can stay tuned for more of that. There's a huge Geeks and Gamers meetup going on in October, at the end of October in Orlando. So that should be pretty crazy. Joe and I, our other passion is actually amusement parks and theme parks and roller coasters. Geeks and Gamers has a theme park channel. And they found out that we love this stuff, and so we've already filmed some content for them. So hopefully you'll see that soon too. So
yeah, big
we're doing
nerds.
a little bit of everything.
Big nerds, which is awesome.
That's why I'm an electrical engineer by degree, so I'm a total nerd, man. That's how it is.
In his element, which is fantastic. Okay, so yeah, listen, I am gonna run in the end here, but like I'm saying to everyone, you want to see more passion like this, you have to tune in to these guys. And you'll see it. So you guys do Sunday, right?
Yep, every Sunday we do 6 o'clock now. We used to be at 7, but we do 6 o'clock Eastern because there's usually a huge Mario Kart stream that Geeks and Gamers has at 9 o'clock. So I like to have a little bit of breathing room.
Right,
before that,
absolutely.
when the trash talking starts.
Absolutely. And what I'm going to do is run in the end. I'm going to come back. Rolo's going to leave you guys with words of wisdom. 42 Chilled says, keep up the great work. I know there's lots of folks that have enjoyed this chat. I think it's very passionate. So thank you for that. Let me run in the end here, and then we're going to be back, and you're going to hit us with the words of wisdom. Alright guys, thanks for hanging out with us here. We are going to rip the audio out of this, throw it up on iTunes or any place that you can get your audio podcast from, including, like, we're on Audible. If you guys are on Audible, you can find us on there. Just look for the Who Moved My Freedom podcast. We're also part of the Firearms Radio Network as well. And DCG44s wants to know if there is more this week. I am not 100% sure. There's just so much stuff going on that if we don't have people coming on and all that kind of stuff, then Lola just says, okay, take care of all the other stuff that you have to. So that's what's happening with that. YouTube now with this shorts thing, I have to do shorts for 3 separate YouTube channels. Man. And then I have to edit videos for 2 channels, and then I do this on Utreon, but then I have to put it up on YouTube, and then I also have to rip that audio and post it. So I'm
dreading the day that I have 2 YouTube channels. I know eventually it's going to have to happen because it's going to be too much content for both, and I'm going to have to split them and just keep the gun channel what it is, the commentary, and put the games on probably a different channel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things, I know we're running a little bit late here, one of the things like YouTube is saying is that even putting up stuff every day isn't necessarily going to help. So we're trying to spread things out. And that's why I'm even doing shorts for Who Moved My Freedom, because, I'm trying to get it going on YouTube, even though I'm not going back to going live on YouTube to do it because we can't hold guns and stuff like that. But I will sometimes go live from YouTube just to talk to the people that are over there. So long answer to that question is I don't even know. Lola left. She got tired of waiting around for imaginary creatures flying around here. So we'll let you guys know. But if not, we'll be back next week. So 42 Chill says Lola gives the orders. Yes. Words of wisdom, Rolando.
We're about to enter unprecedented times that we've never seen in the history of this country. So my advice to everybody would just be vigilant and be patient, because we don't know how this is going to play out. And there are a lot of people that want people like us to react very negatively and do stupid things. And they'll just play right into their hands. So don't do anything stupid. That's really my words of wisdom today.
Yes, makes sense. Just be prepared.
Yep. Be prepared, but don't do anything stupid.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm with you. Okay, awesome. Thanks so much. Stay there, Rolando. Thanks, everyone. If I don't see you guys tomorrow, I will see you next week. Let me press the buttons.